We are rolling.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Creative Businessmen. Today's episode we have filmmaker Will Stroud with us. Is that right? Yeah.
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
And how's it going, man?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good. Do you want to just tell everyone a little about yourself and we'll go from there?
Yeah. So I grew up here in North Carolina, Raleigh area. First picked up video cameras in the mid 90s. Out when my buddies and I were in middle school, we were riding BMX and we were out at the jumps in the woods, and I wanted to start documenting it. My friends were awesome doing tricks, and I was just wanting to start videotaping everything they did. I was really inspired by watching like BMX and skate videos growing up, so that was like a big part of it. So that was in the mid 90s, and then graduated high school in 99, moved to Greensboro in 2000, started film school at UNC Greensboro. And by that time, I had already been working a little bit in the BMX industry. Some of my good friends here locally got sponsored, and their sponsors needed footage of them. So I just started filming, and just filming my friends do tricks and submitting the footage to their sponsors. Their sponsors liked the footage, so they started sending me on the road with the guys. Started going to events, started going on road trips, doing documentary films about the guys and for other BMX videos, and then from there, it just kind of spiraled. I worked for a lot of different companies in the BMX industry. Worked for a lot of the bigger brands like Red Bull, Nike, some of those companies that sent me all over the world to make content for BMX videos, which was awesome. And more recently, I've kind of fallen into working with a company called Cinema BMX. They're a BMX parts company based in New York. We have our professional riders. Our team is based mostly in California. And I manage the team guys, and I film all their content for the brand. So I do all the branded content for Cinema BMX and manage their team riders. And then on the side of that, I started a new startup production company last year during COVID called Press Record Media with my partner, Ryan Timms. And we do branded content, documentaries, commercials, training videos, all sorts of things. Pretty much any kind of company that would need branded content, we make that kind of stuff. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
You did Dave Meera's one of his first videos, right?
Yeah, so back in 2006, he started a bike company called Meera. And that was right here in Greenville, North Carolina. For people that don't know, he was kind of local here in North Carolina.
Yeah, I heard that actually. That's cool.
Yeah, for a long time. So I had known him over the years just from being in the industry and going down there a lot as a younger kid, and then kind of working in the industry and getting to be a filmer. I got the opportunity to film with him quite a bit over the years, and we kind of became buddies, which was really cool.
Incredible. Yeah.
And when he was starting his bike company, he was just thinking about videographers to use, and him and I was actually in Vegas at an event, and he was there, and we were just chatting one night, late night at the bar, and he was like, yeah, I'm going to start this company. I want to, do a bike company. Would you help me do some video stuff? And I said, of course. And I'd be flattered to do that. So yeah, I got to work with him. He was just starting a bike company, sponsoring riders for the first time, and I got to help him create his first video to promote his brand. So that was a lot of fun.
It's awesome, yeah.
Yeah.
Now you talked about the mid '90s. How old are you?
So I just turned 40.
Yeah, so we're about the same age. So.
Yep.
I was big into skateboarding in the '90s, and for the younger viewers, the '90s filming stuff was very difficult. Like we didn't have the technology we have today, so you'd have to actually buy a fairly expensive camera, and it was not. We were still using tape back then too. For
sure, yeah. The digital revolution has changed everything.
Oh, it's amazing, yeah.
Over the past 20 years, but yeah, like you said, I think my first camera, which wasn't even mine, it was my grandmother's camera that she let me borrow to take out to the jumps, and it was like one of those like over-the-shoulder grandma.
All the big ones.
It was like a VHS-C.
Yeah.
You guys remember the VHS?
Yeah,
it was like the smaller VHS tapes, and the thing was a piece of crap.
Yeah, the VHS-C and the high 8s.
Right.
I had a high 8 Sony.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
The late 90s. Yeah.
I did the same. I think I had my grandmother's camera was a VHS-C, and then I think just before I graduated high school, she got me a camera, which was a high 8 camera.
Yeah.
Or yes, a high 8. I think it was the first real camera I had that was, it was still not digital though. Those are still analog tapes in those things.
Yeah, still a little tape.
So that was pre-mini DV, because after that came like the mini DV stuff. And that was, I think like 1999, I think I got my first like mini DV, like
that's cool.
digital camera.
I don't miss any of that stuff.
No.
Yeah, man.
Terrible.
If anybody was around back then, you had to log the tapes. And if anybody ever did that, they know that it's very time consuming. And, if you get a glitch in the tape, your shot is ruined. So there's a lot that could go wrong. And it's another process in the post-production phase that is kind of eliminated now. Everything being files on a memory card, it's much easier to transfer to a computer and start on post right away.
I remember back in, it was probably like 96, I was maybe 16. One of my good friends, Eric, shout out to Eric, he was interested in becoming a filmmaker. We were both interested in that field, but he had a catalog with cameras in it, and we'd found a digital camera. It was like when they had first started coming out with the really nice digital cameras, which, I mean, they're garbage today, but back then it was state of the art. I think it was about $4,000 or something, and we had talked about saving up and purchasing this camera and shooting some documentary stuff, and we never did it, unfortunately. But it was a tough time to get into filmmaking. Today it's easy. I mean, people can use their phones to get started now. Yeah,
it's getting easier and easier. Phones, and before phones were good enough, the DSLRs are good enough. Those have been huge the past like 5 to 10 years. So it's a lot easier for kids to get into filmmaking now. There's like a million YouTube tutorials that can teach you everything from start to finish about pre-production, production, post-production.
Yeah.
There's a lot of resources out there that can help you that weren't around back in the 90s when we were starting.
Yeah, I was recently talking to someone about television series and stuff, and they're like there was Friends, and I guess the biggest series since Friends was probably The Big Bang Theory, but we're not going to see those in the future. Like those giant hit TV shows, they won't exist because there's so much content, and it's so much cheaper to produce content today.
For sure.
Quality content.
For sure. Like every streaming service has their own series now.
Right.
It's like the networks aren't what they used to be. It's more all the streaming services and YouTube and yeah.
It's like you'll have 1,000 Friends quality series. So I mean, you just pick one you like, and you'll never be able to watch all of them.
For sure. So. Yeah. Any given day, you could open Hulu or Amazon Prime and go down any rabbit hole for any number of series you would ever want to watch.
Yeah. What do you think that's going to have as far as an effect on AMC? You've been following the theater any? It's the largest theater chain, obviously.
Yeah, I have. I follow the stock market pretty closely, so I see the people jumping in. And I had some buddies call me yesterday, like, "Hey, you getting in?" And I'm like, "Nah, I'm gonna sit this one out. I'm gonna watch." And now those people are sitting up 100% since yesterday. So.
They did well.
Yeah, I was gonna say I just moved just in case. I moved $10,000 over. Just on I was like, you know what? They're just gonna go to $100,000 a share. I'm like, I doubt that. But
maybe.
But if it went to where I put $10,000 in, if it went to $1,000 a share, I've made millions off $10,000. So
exactly.
So I was like, I'll take a $10,000 shot at it. And I woke up to Robinhood, and it looks like the SEC had halted trading temporarily
today. Oh, bummer.
Yeah. But it looks like it's back on, and I'm up another like $19,000 or so since that halt was released.
Nice.
I think it's hilarious what's going on because there's this battle with the shorters.
Yeah. We need to have a separate conversation about this because I want to pick your brain. I was going to say why AMC and not like Bitcoin or crypto, because that, to me, long term, that has more value.
I do those as well.
You do
We're
those as
investing
well?
in crypto too. Yeah.
Okay, I got to talk to you guys. We got to have a long talk about that.
Every dollar I make needs a job.
Yeah.
So every week when we have revenue that comes in from whatever various sources, and we're constantly looking for projects.
Man.
It's a never ending. And for me, I took a $10,000 position, and my thought process for AMC was, this is not even it wasn't even 1%. Like, this was a fraction of a percent of what I have liquid to do these types of things. So it really was just kind of like, I'd feel foolish if I didn't take a $10,000 shot at it after seeing what happened with GameStop and some others.
Right, yeah.
And so I was like, you know what, I'll do it. And the risk of missing the opportunity is greater than the risk of losing the initial $10,000.
For sure.
To me.
For sure.
So it's just one more thing that I took a shot at. But I did well this year on Doge and a bunch of other things.
You set your stop losses, you just let it run?
Typically, I'll let it run. But if I start to get some type of way, and what I'll do is I'll never move an entire position at once, usually ever. So like if I've got, let's say this thing starts skyrocketing, I don't want a built-in sell to cap my return, right? I would have lost so much more money if I've done that. So what I typically try to do is like, it might be 10% of it sells at $54 and another 10% sells at 60, and it stacks my way up. So I still, that way I'm not trying to. If it skyrockets, I can still sell shares at and you end up with a dollar cost average of your average return there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of what I do. But many times, man, the most money I've made on it actually is when I got locked out of my accounts last year. And,
Thankfully, right?
Thankfully.
Yeah.
And I made a stupid amount of money in crypto because I couldn't get it. I couldn't get access. I still actually haven't. I've recovered all my accounts but one. I'm still working on that.
Was it a Binance or Coinbase?
Binance, Coinbase. I'm still. I actually just got emails yesterday.
Yep.
And last night, and it says right here, Coinbase. Right. I got 4 separate emails that says your account is unlocked, basically. Yep. And then I got 4 separate back-to-back emails that says, please verify your identity. And I've already done that. Like, I went through this massive, so it's put me right back in the same cycle I've been in. But thankfully that happened actually because, last year I made a considerable amount of money, just the money being tied up.
Yep.
So
by not being able to get back in there and sell. Isn't that a blessing in disguise?
It is,
like
man.
you would have sold and you would have not come up on these gains, right?
Yeah.
That's the tough thing.
I did well in Tesla last year too.
Oh, good.
So
that's when I'm kicking myself from not getting it. That was like Tesla started popping right when I was like really diving into investing, and I wasn't quite ready or didn't understand it well enough to like understand I should go in on this.
Right.
I was kind of sort of a rookie at that point.
Yeah.
But now looking back, man, that's a 2020 hindsight one, and that's what I don't want to miss that with crypto.
Yeah.
I'm late into the crypto game, but only about 6 months ago. But I've gone down, and thanks to COVID, actually, I went down the crypto rabbit hole on YouTube, and I spent days researching it, and now I have a pretty substantial portfolio with it, and it's fun to learn about it every day, and learn how to stomach the volatility and just ride it through. And long-term hodl mindset is kind of where I'm at. You know,
no, it makes a lot of sense.
I think crypto is important. I think it's
I think the technology behind it is really important.
Yeah, it's a shift in our social construct. I think it's showing us that anything can be valuable if we all agree it's valuable.
Agree.
And
it's fiat.
Right.
Yeah, it actually fixes the fiat problem, right? Yeah. There's a limited amount of fiat resource, so we can just create other versions to offset that.
Right.
Or pick up the slack.
Right. And the like the whole DeFi, like the financial revolution that's coming. That's exciting to think about how that will be all changed. I think 5 years from now, DeFi will revolutionize the way we think about finances, and it's already going that way. You guys know with like Square and PayPal.
Oh yeah.
It's just mass adoption is just a matter of time.
But there's also the financial system hates it though.
They're fighting it. Yeah.
The regulators are
many of my accounts and my cards. They've started blocking my transfers like into. So and then they end up in just blatantly they're like, oh, as an effort to prevent fraud, we're stopping this transaction. Like, what do you mean?
Right.
And I call them, we're like, well, the company has taken a stance that we're not going to allow transfers of this. That's not an effort to prevent fraud.
Right.
No, it's an effort to prevent.
Yeah. So like, because there's no fraud,
taking away their power.
I can verify my identity. It's my money. I want to move it over. Right. They shouldn't be able to tell you can't.
Exactly.
Right.
But they are definitely trying to stop it. But
did I send you that video yesterday with Ben Gortzel at Singularity?
I just watched that. I just watched the Singularity video where they were talking to the nurse. Yeah, the nurse that runs on Cardano.
Yep.
That is a fascinating video.
Did you send that to me?
I meant to, but I don't think I did.
That's where Ben introduces the nurse to Charles Hoskinson, and they have the conversation for the first time. That was really cool.
Really awesome.
I definitely nerded out on that one.
If you sent it to me, I did not catch it. I had a client yesterday, and he's turned into a good friend actually. He had a request to go to the Cherokee Casino yesterday. He's in the state, and obviously it was Wednesday, and I got everything in the world to do, but I obliged, and I had a good time. But the problem is there in the mountains, you have virtually no signal. So it was a very challenging day to run a business remotely while at a casino. So it was fun. I'm not trying to complain, but it was definitely a challenge. I'm happy to be back at it today and here with you.
Yeah.
But did you send it or?
I just sent it to you.
Hey, there we go. I'll check it out.
It's a cool video,
I'll veg out on it later.
Yeah.
So but Cardano it's going to be a good one. It's a very useful blockchain.
Yeah, that's one that I'm got pretty heavy in this year, and
real
staking it, and learning about staking rewards and all that stuff. Got my separate wallet and everything, and I'm putting all my stuff in cold storage too. It's fun to learn about that. I'm staking off the exchanges just because, like you said, there's all these problems. There's hacks. There's no FDI insurance. There's a lot of issues that we kind of.
Yeah, because it's not fiat currency.
Right.
So.
I still have a considerable amount of money locked in Coinbase I can't get out. And I thought last night I got there and they gave me an email that had steps to do.
Yeah.
And then obviously it looks like it's relocked. So
Man, yeah.
So
but I think kind of the overall subject of crypto in general, like kind of like the topic of the podcast, Creative Businessmen. I wish it was something I got into earlier in life.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's only been around for what, 12 years now, not even that long, 2008, 2009.
Something like that. Yeah.
But it's one of those things that I'm glad that I had this realization this year that, man, it's still not too late.
It's still new.
It's still a long time before mass adoption.
So there's this thing, and I had a mentor that gave me some version of this, and then obviously there's some memes that go around, but I think if you look at history, like right now, it's very simple for me to say, because I'm 36, and I go, I wish I'd have done this at 26, right? But the guy that's 46 wishes he'd have done it at 36, right? And like everybody in their position in life, as their knowledge expands, right? As their level of understanding expands, they wish they would have applied those things sooner. But the reality is, just the way things work is that the opportunity is present today, and it's going to be present 10 years from now, and to be present 20 years from now. So the key is to start acting, right? Is to start. You have to have forward movement, because deciding not to act today because you didn't 10 years ago is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Right.
And you'd be surprised how many people take that position. They're like, I already missed it. So it's like, I've already missed it, so I'm not going to get involved today.
Right.
Right. And then 10 years from now, you're going to be like, I wish I'd have got involved.
Right. Yeah.
And but you'd be surprised how many people that say to me that they get in either political or opinionated arguments about why they can't be successful financially, but they've got $1,000 phone in their pocket.
Right.
And they've never invested $1,000 in anything.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's real interesting to me. They don't have time, but they're on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat and all these other things, but they have no time to learn or educate themselves. And so like it's all this thing. So like I feel like I agree with you on one sense. Like you don't know how many people were telling me, and I believe it was like 2009, 10, 11, hey man, and I could have very easily taken 10 grand, 100 grand, whatever, and just put into it. And I beat myself up sometimes, like, why didn't I just take a stab at it, right?
Yeah.
But at the point today, I'm not going to cry about the missed money. It is what it is. But today I'm paying attention.
Sure.
You know, last year I was paying attention. And actually the last, I don't know, time kind of flies. Last 2 or 3 years I've been really, I'm very busy, so I don't do it to the level I should, but I'm definitely in it.
Yeah. Same. It's been fun to learn how the markets work too, and the ups and the downs, and just
it's extremely volatile.
Not to let the emotion get to you, not to panic sell. You know, Elon's over here tweeting, manipulating the markets, but you just got to drown out all that noise.
Listen,
you know?
Warren Buffett, I mean, his investment philosophy for the last, almost 70 years describes exactly what Elon did, right? Like Warren Buffett would find stocks, right, that were undervalued based on some short-term, some temporary thing. So imagine for a second that the CEO of a company had some nefarious act or some affair with a wife, right? And because of this negative news, the negative headlines and all this, it spread like wildfire and people were selling their stock, right? And then short companies would come in and short the stock. And it created this temporary valuation of the company. Well, Warren would ask the question, has the mechanics of the business changed, right? Does this have anything to do with the real valuation of the company, or is this, emotion? And so that's where he would go in, and he would pick up these companies heavily devalued because he knew that over an extended period of time the price would rebound. And if you take emotion out of it, then things that Elon tweets shouldn't affect you, right? Or you're smart enough to know that it'll affect other people, and you can capitalize based off that.
Right, for sure.
So, and I knew, and every time there's new highs, there's people that hold large positions in everything, and sometimes they feel like it's time to take some profit, which sends the price back down. That's, hit a ceiling, it has almost an opposite and equal force that sends it back the other way, and then it kind of just bounces.
Right.
I think Elon is thinking the same thing, though, as far as the need for another option, an alternative to fiat currency, so we can raise the floor of society.
So, you follow Mr. Wonderful at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
I follow him pretty close.
So, he's talking about Bloodcoin, right? He's talking about crypto that's being mined in China, and obviously China's responsible for something like 70% of the coal and the pollution in the world. They're saying in the world, right? Yeah. And so China's like, supposedly, I haven't seen this firsthand, but supposedly China's oppressing entire segments of their population through different things. They're also creating all this pollution through coal. They're not abiding by all these things, but they're also the number one source for mined Bitcoin. So Mr. Wonderful's coined this like a blood diamond. He thinks what's going to happen. I actually think he's right. Blood diamonds in Africa, right? They're almost worthless, right? If you are an American company and you're caught selling them, you're done, right? So, and there's all these things to prevent it, and that's what they're calling. They're calling the Chinese crypto blood coin. And so what he's doing is he owns these farmers, right? These crypto farmers, and it's sustainable. It's this, it's that. It meets all these ethical and moral things, right? And he's getting paid based off the coin that is being produced, right? And so he's got what he calls virgin coin, right? Which is coin that's never been sold, it's never been tied to anybody, that number's never been anywhere, and that he can trace it to the original source, and it's a clean, safe, whatever source, right? I think that's kind of really smart what he's doing.
It is, yeah.
And for an institutional investor, or you start looking at these major hedge funds, you start looking at these multi-billion-dollar corporations, that, because of all the PR that goes with that, is going to be very valuable to them.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder: are we going to end up with? And I don't know that this is possible. Do you end up with two types of coin?
Right.
Is there two types of Bitcoin? One that's,
where do you source it from? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's fascinating. And how would you prove that your Bitcoin was mined by renewables too?
Well,
would that be certified on the blockchain as well?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So, and this is the part that I'm unsure about. It should be able to be traced to its origin, right?
Yeah.
And now, then becomes this other thing. If we're talking about billions, right? We're talking about AAA rated securities companies. It matters. If we're talking about you using your crypto, your blockchain, your coin, your Bitcoin at the gas station to pay for gas, I don't think the gas station attendant matters so much, right? If we're talking about $70 transactions, you see what I'm saying? So
yeah.
I almost wonder, I don't know how much of an effect it'll have, but with diamonds, it's not everybody has one, and they usually only buy one, right? Unless they, end up in a second or a third marriage. It's not something that they buy daily like fuel.
Well, most diamonds are used for manufacturing.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, but I thought that was a really interesting twist that I didn't anticipate.
Right.
One thing to consider with the thing about mining Bitcoin in China, and also with China's, they're the number one producer of carbons and whatever in the world. You also have to take into consideration that the biggest reason for that is because of the trade agreements in the 90s. We sent most of our manufacturing to China.
Yeah.
And because it's cheap labor, it's low regulations. So it's not like the U.S. is some upstanding country because we're not producing a lot of
I agree with that.
A lot of smog. It's we just moved it somewhere else.
Right.
And I think, and I'm all for fair trade. I just don't like the free trade because it's really just a way for big corporations to get cheap labor from people,
right,
without regulation. And I think if it were a fair trade, we would have those companies here also, and you would spread them out throughout the whole globe. And then because it does help, it does alleviate poverty issues and stuff like that. But it seems when you start saying, oh well, this it's not good for the environment to mine Bitcoin here. Well, it's sort of a marketing ploy too, right? Because it's you can do it more expensively and do it in a green way, and then people will buy your product because it's done a different way. But
Right.
I think the goal should be on a global scale to improve all manufacturing and focus on renewable energies. And I know that I'm not a fan of the Chinese government by any means, but I know that China is heavily invested in technology and AI and renewable energy and stuff like that. And I think that's where the entire globe's going. It's a slow process. Well, sort of slow, but it'll happen rapidly.
Yeah.
But I don't think in the long run that really matters because Bitcoin is still Bitcoin. It's
Right.
still the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I think part of there's supply and demand is definitely part of this, and part of it's hype, and part of it's just it's becoming more accepted, right? When we're talking about like Bitcoin specifically, But it gets harder to mine as we go, right? Which the cost to mine goes up over time, which means that the existing coins are going to go up in value.
Right, it becomes more valuable.
Right.
Yeah.
So I feel like from short of it just being the tulip craze and it not being something we use, we just don't use Bitcoin, but we use the blockchain technology. If somehow that happened, short of that, I don't see how it doesn't go and continue going and continue going and continue going, because 10 years from now, if they're still trying to mine it, it's going to cost, it's an astronomical amount to do it at that point.
Right. There's 2 more halvings over the next 10 years, right? So,
yeah. It's like exponential difficulty.
Right. And the supply is going down over time too. So exponentially that.
And technology is exponential. So all these issues that we face, with manufacturing, being too high in carbon use or carbon distribution, that's going to change rapidly too.
Right.
Renewables are the only option we have if we want to continue to exist. On the planet.
Another thing too, you guys know this, the proof of stake, some of the altcoins that are running on lower amounts of energy. That's really fascinating, like Cardano and Solana. There's a bunch of them. Yeah. Another one that's interesting. Are you guys familiar with VeChain?
VeChain.
I've heard of it.
Vaguely familiar.
I don't want to pump a random coin, but they're a company project based in Singapore, which they're actually working. They do like supply chain management and logistics on their blockchain. So I think they could potentially be a big one down the road. But they just posted they're having a meeting with the Chinese government trying to help them run government on VeChain, which the supply chain management. And then you guys probably saw like what Cardano is doing in Africa. They're doing a lot of cool stuff over there in Ethiopia. Yeah. So it's just really cool to see it actually real world application. It's going to start happening.
Transferring funds. Like we have businesses. You'd be surprised how slow and arduous the process is. And not only that, it's expensive. Like just to move money.
Fees,
right? To move digits on a screen from one bank to another, the fees that are charged, right? It makes absolutely no sense. And people think they think they're getting raked over the coals with some of the crypto fees. Now, I will say some of the exchanges that are taking advantage of some things, that does happen. But for the most part, that blockchain technology highly subsidizes those fees that are being changed.
Could also be a solution for voting too.
Right. Yeah. Hoskinson actually tweeted at Trump and said that same thing, I think, during the election mix-up. He was like, let Cardano handle the voting because we can prove that it's legit.
It's crazy that we vote on paper.
Right. It is crazy if you think about it. Yeah.
I mean, we can bank on our phones. Why can't we vote on our phones?
That's a good point.
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
No, I like it too. And this is why I like these podcasts, because you never know where you're going to go.
Right. Who would be talking about this stuff?
Right. Yeah. Let's easily turn this into a crypto hour for sure. I'm by no means an expert, but I just love learning about this stuff every day.
That's a big part of our reality right now.
Yeah.
Before we get away from the manufacturing stuff too, I just read a book called "The Future is Faster Than You Think" by Peter Diamandis, and he was talking about a lot of times people ask about people like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, and people think, well, why do they need more? Don't they have enough? And I tell people, like, it's not about the money. It's about these people are creators, and they have goals, and they're not doing it for the money. They're doing it for whatever their goals are. Whatever they're trying to create. And in that book, it talks about how Jeff Bezos, when he was young, he was fascinated with space, and the idea of humans becoming a space-faring species. Leaving the planet and exploring, our, local solar system, our galaxy, maybe the universe. And I believe one of his professors in college was a brilliant physicist. I can't remember his name, but he had the same type of hopes for the future of humanity. And so Jeff Bezos' goal has always been to become a billionaire so he could help humanity move into space and explore. And that's always been his goal.
Yeah.
And so his vision is to have to create these space cities, basically, and increase the human population by like trillions. And his idea is, like, if you can do that, you'll have 1,000 Einsteins at one time, and we can move all manufacturing into space, there's unlimited resources in space, and the planet will just be like a residential zone mostly, light industry, mostly residential and retail.
Yeah.
And so it's a brilliant idea, and I think, we're just headed that way.
So I think to take what you're talking about too, though, because I've had that. We're not nowhere near that level financially, but I've been asked that question, and it's not about the money. But what I'll tell you, almost everybody, like surely you've had somebody in your life, maybe like for me, a recent example, I had somebody that overdosed in my life, right? That I grew up with. I've had people that have committed suicide, right? Like there's all these things that all of a sudden you become passionate about, right? Like that you want to put money towards, right? And one of the great things about earning more than what you need, what that really means is that I have the ability to put money into things that I'm passionate about, right? Like we have an event come up with Shazer, the Big Cat Rescue, or the what's it called? Shizzy's Wildcat Reserve, sorry.
Yep.
And we got an event coming up at Foreign Cars here, I think in 2 weeks. Neil and I did a habitat there. We've done stuff I do a lot of stuff with like boys' homes, and there's all these things that we can put money behind, right? Because I'm passionate about it, and that's my choice. And the better I do, like I basically become almost a socialist with my immediate family and the people that I care about. Like I'm wanting everybody to do well. I'm able to do that because of these things I've done. But otherwise I'd be relying on a government entity to dictate where my money goes and who we're going to help and why we're going to help. And I just don't like that, right? And so you start thinking about Bezos. What he's basically doing is he's taking and he's earning all this money, but then he's turning around and reinvesting it. It's going back out to everybody and through creation, because the goal was not the money. It's just an ends to a means. It means to an end, but the goal was never just the money.
And also, I think it's hubris to think that any of us are really doing anything on our own.
Yeah.
It's just evolution. Like we don't really know what the fuck we're doing. We're just doing it.
Right.
And it happens, and we just create technology, and we just keep evolving, and it's it's exponential. So. We're linear thinkers, so it's hard to comprehend where things will be in 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years, between now and 2030 is not 10 years. It's like 100 years of advancement. We can't comprehend that. I mean, it's very difficult to picture that. And then the next 20 years might be 300 or 400 years in advancement. It's exponential, so it's hard to even wrap your head around what's coming.
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful that things will go in a positive direction, because they have historically, the data has always moved in a positive direction for humanity.
Yep.
But I intuitively believe that we're starting to merge with technology, because technology is nature. It's all nature. It's all the same. It's just matter being manipulated, and I guess we are the universe, right? We're part of it, and the more we manipulate the matter, I believe we're just becoming some kind of technology, maybe.
Right.
And that frees up a lot of our limitations. It expands our minds. It'll expand our ability to explore, to branch out, to understand, to comprehend certain things that. And I mean, we're also limited on our experience. How we experience reality is based on our interface with reality, which is limited. So if we can expand our interface. It seems like we would actually become, people are afraid like technology is going to make us not human, but I think it'll make us better than human, right? I think if you can expand your sensory input, then you should be able to feel more. You should be able to care more. You should be more empathetic. You should be much more intelligent, right?
Right.
So, I mean, we may look back at humans like we look back at our ancestors that were primitive hominids and be like, oh, they were idiots, they were savages, and I think it just keeps going. I think it's just endless,
right?
Like it's infinite.
Yeah, there's that scenario. Then there's the Terminator II
right.
scenario, right?
Yeah, there's the idea that you create. So a lot of the leaders in AI and so forth, those types of technologies, believe that by 2030 we'll have a human level AI. Now, whether that's conscious or not, we don't know. What's scary is if you create a human-level AI that's not conscious or much more powerful than a human mind, but can be completely manipulated by a human.
Right.
That's scary.
It's kind of like that singularity net video you were just talking about, the Ben Gortzel video.
Oh, yeah.
The cyborg nurse, they have a full-on conversation with her.
Right, yeah.
And she seems pretty autonomous just from the little interaction. Like that, you got to watch that.
That cyborg nurse, didn't she have a thing with Tony Robbins? Is that the same one? Didn't she do like a?
I think that was the predecessor to this one.
That's the this is the newest one.
But I don't think Singularity Net is on the same level as Google.
Right.
With what is theirs called? Blue Origin.
That's Bezos.
Yeah, it's Blue something though, right?
I thought that was Blue Origin was Bezos.
Yeah, that's Bezos. But what's Google's AI?
I'm not sure about that.
I can't think of the name of it. Anyway, Google's AI, I think, is the most advanced.
Okay.
Because it has all the money behind it, and it's got all these leading AI scientists. Ben Gertzel's a genius.
Yeah.
Super genius. But I think he's limited with his resources, whereas Google is Google.
Yeah.
You know? And Ray Kurzweil, I think, is the head of Google's work in AI.
Gotcha.
And I think
Jesse got it.
It just says Google AI.
Okay.
There's a name.
There's another company you guys might be familiar with.
Assistant,
You guys heard of Boston Dynamics? You
Oh,
guys
yeah.
know that
Yeah,
company?
yeah.
They post some really cool.
They're owned by Hyundai now.
Are they?
Mm-hmm.
The car
And they're
company.
also anti-war, which is great.
Are they? Well, that's good to know based
Yeah.
on some of the stuff we've
There
seen.
was a paintball company that recently bought one of their robots. You know, the yellow robot Spot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they're about $75,000, and they bought one
That's
of those.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would thought it'd be way
Crazy,
more
right?
than that.
Well, technology
Yeah.
is cheap. Eventually,
My
everything will
10-year-old
be
wants
free,
one,
right?
by the way.
But
It's almost cheaper than a Tesla, right?
yeah.
My 10-year-old.
Oh, it is.
I was like, bro, why don't you build one? Because he's all into engineering and he builds these elaborate things. And he's like, well, it's only $75,000. I was like, why don't you build one? Because I bet you we can build one for a lot less. Buddy.
You just have to buy the AI to go in it.
Yeah.
The software is the expensive
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
It's fascinating stuff.
But the this company bought one of those. It was a paintball company, and they rigged it up with like a paintball cannon. And Hyundai reached out to them, or Boston Dynamics reached out to them and said, "Hey, this is actually against our purchase contract. If you'll take the cannon off, then we'll just give you 2 of them," which was awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's hopeful.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
tell they just don't want their company to turn into like Attack of the Clones type company, you know.
Because that technology will be a thing.
It will
Yeah.
be for sure.
And that's the terrifying
Yeah,
part.
right.
Yeah.
It falls into the wrong hands for sure.
So all it says is just like Google AI, and apparently they have different products and stuff like that.
There's not a name for it.
They're maybe DeepMind.
DeepMind, that's it.
That's the okay.
Yeah, DeepMind.
Not
that's
familiar with that one.
Google DeepMind. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's. I think Ray Kurzweil is the head of the engineering over all that.
Yeah, I'm sure they got so much stuff going on we can only imagine, right?
Yeah, it's supposed to be really incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, they believe that they'll have human level AI by 2030.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, and so does Ben Gertzel.
Yeah, right.
But I feel like the merger of humans and AI is really the future.
Yeah.
And you know, this technology is going to constantly start replacing our entry level jobs and stuff like that too. So we'll have to do something different in our society. And I believe Peter Diamandis is on the right track with that. I think the floor in society will raise, and there will be no more poverty. So everyone will either be really happy with just entry level work, whatever that is, but they'll also have the opportunity to pursue their goals and their passions if they choose to.
Right.
And then if you're a really ambitious entrepreneur like we are, then there's no ceiling, so you can do as much as you want. You just keep creating, and I think that's the key to a successful future of humanity. Is you don't want anyone in poverty because you're wasting potential. Mm-hmm. And also, if you want to have a good society, you have to have healthy people.
Right.
You have to have a healthy society. So if everyone's doing well, things like racial issues or social inequalities, economic inequalities, those things just won't exist anymore. They'll be meaningless.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's still people that want power.
Right.
You know, but I think that becomes less important in the future. And especially if we make ourselves more intelligent, those things will be arbitrary.
Yeah.
They won't make any sense to us.
Yeah. I definitely hope so.
Yeah. That's the hope.
Yeah.
Either that or we'll all be subservient mind slaves.
Yeah. We'll have the microchips or whatever. What is Elon's company? Is that Boring Company? Is that his other venture?
That's the tunneling company.
Yeah,
he has Neuralink.
Yeah, Neuralink. There you go.
Yeah,
That's
which I like that technology.
Yeah.
Have you seen the recent video of the chimp playing Pong?
Yes, where he can play and he actually gets it.
Plays it with his mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's amazing.
I did see that. Yep, that's really cool.
I think they're starting human trials this year or next year.
Crazy.
And we're supposed to have a guy on, I think next week, to talk about Neuralink. He has a
Cool.
podcast called Neuropod, and he's everything Elon Musk and Neuralink.
Yeah.
But it's a fascinating technology. I think that's the first iteration of a computer technology interface or brain technology interface, which will allow people that are paraplegics or have
Right.
other types of neurological disorders to interact with technology. But eventually that'll quickly go into the public, giving us a better connection. Because if you look at the internet, it's basically just all of our minds connected, right?
Right.
And right now we just have our thumb as an interface with these things.
Yeah.
But eventually it'll be a direct connection. And then people like Ray Kurzweil or Peter Diamandis believe that it'll be some type of nanotechnology that we use to enhance our cerebral cortex to do the same thing that Elon's work's doing, but on a much higher level.
Crazy stuff to think about.
Yeah.
Like physically putting a chip inside of you for that stuff.
Right.
If that's really what Neuralink is doing. I'm not familiar with
Well,
how it works, but
So Neuralink is it's about the size of a quarter, and it has 1,000 leads, like tiny leads. They're smaller than the hairs that come off of the device, and they've created this AI-powered surgical tool or machine that will, cut. It cuts a small place in your skull, and then it maps out all the veins and stuff in your brain, and it injects these leads into your cerebral cortex and into other parts of your brain. It can go pretty deep, and this allows a much more accurate interaction with the different neurons in different parts of your brain, and then it runs I think it runs like kind of a wire or something behind your ear, and you can wear like just kind of an earpiece, almost like a wireless headset, and that interacts with it through Bluetooth, and it allows you to have access to your technology.
crazy.
So it's going to be pretty amazing for people that are paraplegics and stuff like that. But they can, I think they believe they'll be able to use that same technology for people that have spinal cord injuries and stuff like that to fix the connection or reconnect the nerves, and it'll just keep expounding. I think once we get into nanotechnologies, that the possibilities of that are endless.
Right.
I know that also with 3D printing. One of Ray Kurzweil's companies, they're printing organs.
Yeah, that's cool. That's something I follow pretty closely. The 3D printing industry, just do the stock market stuff. Yeah.
And his brother
cool.
just had a kidney transplant, and
Yeah.
and it was at a scary point because he'd been 5 years.
Yeah, he had passed 5 years on the waiting list, and
Oh wow.
Yeah.
average life expectancy in there is like 5 to 7 years. So
Yeah.
like you're literally on life support 3 days a week, 5 hours at a time. And by the time you get there in the morning, time you get unplugged, make sure the bleeding stops, everything else, it's more like a 6 hour a day, 3 days a week kind of process.
Crazy.
And it's very likely that within 5 or 10 years, they'll just be able to take your tissue and or your stem cells from that organ and grow you a new kidney.
Yeah.
In a very short period of time.
Yeah, that's really crazy.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It's amazing.
Yep.
And also we may be able to stop our aging by 2030 also.
That'd be crazy.
And then start reversing it
Yeah.
by 2040.
That would be some stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
You still like BMX at all? You still do any of that yourself or no? We need some age reversal to take place first.
Yeah.
For sure.
You know, when I go down the road with the guys, I mess around, but I don't really try to get too rad because I've gotten so many injuries over the years that like broken both wrists several times, broken my right leg, you know, did my right shoulder. So, you know, and then one time I was overseas, actually. I was in England on a BMX track, and the guy was like, "Oh, just jump this jump," you know. And I was like, "Okay, yeah." And then in the emergency room in England, this was like 10 years ago. So I broke my elbow in England, and then I was like, "All right, I really got to stop messing around." So, no, I'm not doing any backflips or any handrails anymore, but I still I'll still hit the small jumps, the old man stuff, stay low to the ground. But
40 when you get hurt, it's not the same.
Yeah, broken bones are not my thing anymore. So I prefer to stay on the safe side of the camera as much as I can now. I'm still connected to the sport through filming the guys, which is fun. Yeah. But I don't really I'm not looking for that thrill like that anymore.
I'm excited to see where extreme sports go in the future.
Yeah.
I think it'll be insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah,
when you can just replace shit.
Yeah,
easily.
yeah. But the level,
my arm came off and
drew a new one.
Right. But yeah, the level of progression with the bike tricks is just getting out of hand too. Yeah. Like stuff that wasn't even thought of 5 years ago, people are doing now because the evolution and the progression and social media. You'll see a guy, you know, in Australia learn this trick, and then people here will start trying it, and then they'll learn it, then they'll learn something crazier.
Yeah, the sharing of information.
The sharing of information has really exponentially just increased the progression level. Yeah.
I watch a lot of skateboarders do tricks now. I'm like, we couldn't have even imagined this trick back when I used to skateboard. It just seems impossible. You can't even see it.
You got to slow the film down. You got to slow it all the way down just to see what the hell they're doing.
Right, and skateboarding is very technical too, as you guys know. There's regular and there's switch. So doing things switch is like throwing a ball left-handed, you know, and it's.
But a lot of these guys, you can't tell.
Right, they're so good they can do it both ways.
It's unbelievable.
Equally as good. Yeah, that's a really hard skill. Same for BMX. It's the same thing.
But you can record yourself now and then just immediately real time play it back and then do it again.
Yep.
You can see your mistakes. Like when we were doing it, you didn't have that ability. Right. You know, most of the time, most of the stuff we did wasn't taped.
Right.
Or like what I did. And I mean, we probably had a video camera twice when I skateboarded.
Right. You know? Yeah. It just wasn't a thing back then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now they video everything.
Yep. And it's on Instagram 20 minutes later, you know.
Yeah. So I couldn't see what I was doing wrong when I was trying to learn a new trick. I just had to make little adjustments every time until I figured out what it was.
Right.
And also have my friends tell me, like, I think you're doing this, or you need to, you know, lean back a little bit, you know, whatever. But now they can just see it and correct it.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Much easier.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's like that with everything.
Yeah.
That's why things are advancing so quickly. So what got you into filmmaking?
Mostly just to... What got me into filmmaking was my love for BMX and skateboard videos as a kid. I didn't know that until I was like a teenager, that I would always see tricks, my friends doing tricks in person. I could envision how this should look on a video. Like I love, you know, watching videos. You study it, you study the art form, you study the filming, you study the editing. You start listening to the music from the video. So it kind of like, it comes like an all-encompassing culture you just fall into.
Yeah, 311 skateboard video magazine.
411, yeah, 411. Yeah, those videos are so awesome. Those are very inspirational. Yeah. Like the cinematography and the editing, it was so like ahead of its time.
It's incredible, yeah.
Yeah, and it just, the artistic side of it.
Yeah.
That really fascinated me. And I wanted to just try to learn how to create stuff. So I guess picking up a camera, not really knowing the settings. I remember, like we were saying, it was my grandma's VHS-C camera that it was a black and white viewfinder. It was just the crappiest camera ever. The zoom barely worked. I didn't know how to use the exposure or focus, but I was out there learning how to like follow shots, follow guys riding bikes. That's another thing too. I was kind of like lucky to learn how to film action first, which I think that's one of the hardest things to film is anything moving fast, action sports.
Because you have to move with it too, right?
You're either moving with it or you're learning how to pan the camera fast, or learning how to control the zoom and how to control the shot and keep your subject in frame, whether they're going up and down or fast, forward, backwards. There's a lot of, I guess you just have to have an understanding of how the sport works and then kind of apply that to how to use the camera to capture that moment. And, you know, you dissect it, and the guys, certain guys do tricks where they spin a certain way. So I would have to think in my head, like, okay, it would look better from this side if he's going to spin towards me. I would have to like mentally think about all that. When you watch a BMX or a skate video, you don't really think about like, oh, the filmer had to think about being on the right side of the trick to show the trick best. I like that whole dynamic of it too. Was because I was a BMXer, I understood the difficulty of the tricks, and I wanted to show it in the right light to kind of show try to just display the difficulty of what these guys were doing. So that really hooked me. And I remember we would go out to the jumps. We would shoot hours of footage. I didn't know what I was doing. We'd go home to my parents' house. It was only a few miles away. We'd plug the old camera into the TV. We'd hit play, and we'd just watch raw footage for hours. And I would like mentally take notes, like, okay, I could have filmed this a little bit better. I could have zoomed out. I could have like just taken it a little easier on the zoom, or maybe not pan so fast, or just get lower for the next time I film something like that. So
now, how did you edit the footage back then?
Back then, at my high school, we had a broadcast studio where it was linear editing, so VCR to VCR. Oh, okay. So I would go out and shoot on this VHS-C camera, and then I would have to dub that tape to a VHS, dub that whole tape to a VHS tape, take that VHS tape to school, dub from that VHS tape to another VHS master edit.
Just the pieces you wanted.
Just the pieces I wanted. I would pick the best shots, and then I would do everything VCR to VCR, clip by clip, and then dub the music over at the end. You'd have to hit like play record, and then it would dub the music over your edit.
Right.
So that's how I learned how to cut, was all linear.
Wow.
And that was before, computers and Adobe Premiere and Final Cut Pro.
Well, those things existed, but they were really expensive
back
then.
Yeah. This was like probably 97, and I had never even edited anything on a computer. I'd never edited anything at all, so I learned how to do it straight VCR to VCR. That's how
cool.
I learned.
Yeah.
And actually just recently found those tapes from like 97 when I moved, and I didn't watch them yet, but I remember when I was making them, you could see like the generation lost between VHS, like those like third generations at the time. By the time I edited it, had already been dubbed 2 or 3 times, so nice and like, the crappy VHS tracking lines and the fuzz, but it kind of brings out some...
kind of cool though.
Yeah, now looking back, people try to put the VHS effect on all their new footage to make it look old.
You needed to digitize those videos.
Yeah, exactly. I actually did that sort of recently. I've dug out all my old high footage and old mini DV tapes and some VHS-C and got them on hard drive.
Nice.
I've yet to really do anything with it, but I've got them there for one day I'll have some time to dig.
Now, when you're digitizing the high 8 stuff and the VHS-C, can you do it at a faster speed, or does it have to be real time?
It has to be real time. Oh. So in the past, I would have like sat there manually and hit like play, or capture, or play, capture, and then like individually did every single file. Now I'll just like capture the whole tape. Like I'll just hit play, record, or capture the whole tape. Let it go and capture the whole tape, and you just chop out what you need.
Hey, Will, for digital editing, did you learn that at UNCG when they'd gotten Final Cut in, and there were just a few of us sort of no one could teach us how to use it, but like we just got in there and kind of learned. Were you part of that group?
So Jesse, this is a fun fact for you guys. Jesse was the first person that I ever saw editing with Final Cut Pro in person.
Oh.
When I did my first tour of UNCG, you set up a meeting, you go tour the film school, and Jesse was one of the graduate students working on his senior film at the time. And I remember they were showing me the editing lab, where it just had like, there wasn't even that many. There was like probably a handful of G4 towers, and it was like old Final Cut. It wasn't anything fancy. It was just monitor tower.
Version 2.5.
Yeah.
0.25, something like that.
Right. So up until that point, I don't think I had ever edited anything on a computer. I had my parents, when I graduated high school, I got a Dell computer. Like at the time, it was like one of the fastest. It was like a Pentium 3, and it was like one of the fastest computers you buy at the time. 20 gigabyte hard drive, and I was like, "Whoa, that's a lot of space, man! I can put a lot of footage on this." And
when I was in high school, my first computer, when I was 17, instead of buying a car, I bought a computer. And it was a Pentium Pro 166 with a 2 gig hard drive. It was a beast.
Yeah. So I guess I had learned how to edit on Premiere on a PC right when I probably saw you at UNCG. And then shortly after that, I guess I learned that Macs are the way to go. So I got a G4. Right. I got my first G4 in Final Cut. Cool. That must have been in like that would have been around 2000 when I switched to Mac, and I've been Mac ever since.
Yeah. I switched to Mac in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Once you get in the production world, even back then, like just every time you try to edit on a PC, something would crash, or you have to install a new driver. Windows was just not friendly for video. And it still isn't, in my opinion.
I don't think so. Yeah, I think Macs are just they're more simple, like the way they're more intuitive the way they work.
For sure. So switching over, starting to learn how to use Macs back there in like early 2000s. That's like that kind of helped me the trajectory of my post production. Just learning the workflow of Final Cut Pro, and then transitioning back to Premiere. 5 years ago. It's been a lot of fun to like learn the post workflow in the digital world now compared to how I started.
That's cool. Now, when you were growing up, like, what was your childhood like, and what led you to be an entrepreneur? Because I know, like for me and Daniel, the entrepreneurial part of our personality started really young.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's funny. For me, I had a great childhood. Parents are awesome. I had a younger brother. He's awesome. We rode bikes together. My parents were very supportive of everything I did. You know, I played traditional sports most of my like elementary, middle school, and then it was like probably early high school when I really got into BMX and I wanted to quit all the other stuff, and they were like really supportive of that too. But neither one of my parents were necessarily entrepreneurs. They both worked normal jobs, you know, put in their 30 years at their companies. My mother was a teacher at a tech school, and my dad was like a electronic technician for one company for his whole career.
Okay.
And, you know, it's funny enough, I knew I was passionate about the bikes and filmmaking and all that stuff, but I didn't really put it all together till it was literally my senior year of high school. And I was like, okay, I should probably figure out a plan if I'm going to go to college. I knew that I wanted to go, but I guess I was kind of falling into going for film school. But it's still at that point, I didn't know exactly how I wanted to be. I wanted to make films. I wanted to be a filmmaker. I didn't know if I was going to move to LA and try to work for a studio or if I was going to stay local. Really didn't know a lot of that stuff. And then kind of naturally, as things went on, my freshman year, I went to Campbell University I went for broadcasting at first. I ended up not liking the news gathering broadcasting side as much. It felt too like cut and dry, too plain Jane, less creative.
Yeah.
I really wanted to be in the filmmaking. So UNCG was the closest film school, and I looked into it, and that's when I decided to come here in 2000. And still at that point, I just thought I would, you know, either get like a job for an agency or move out west to try to just pursue work in the film industry. I really didn't know what avenue it was going to take me other than I wanted to make bike videos with my friends.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, I had a job offer. My two of my really good friends that were starting a bike company based in Dayton, Ohio. They said, "Hey, you know, we have a job for you if you want to come work for us straight out of school." And I was like, "Yeah, this is awesome. I could work on BMX videos full time straight out of college. This is great."
Yeah.
Granted, it wasn't the best salary, but
a lot of experience.
It was. Yeah, I could just. That was my first opportunity to go work for a small agency and just make BMX videos and work with pro bike riders all the time and get to travel the world. So that's what I did my first year out of school. And I was like, man, this is awesome. But I still kind of wasn't sure what my path was going to be. I was actually getting married at the time too. So I was like, you know, I kind of just want to work for myself and see how this goes as a freelancer, knowing that you're going to have some tough times, knowing that it's going to be hard. And I was, you know, just kind of straight out of college. I had connections within the BMX industry, but not like any real world connections for other jobs outside of my niche industry.
Still much more limited technology back then too.
Right.
Yeah.
We're still working on mini DV tapes. We're editing on computers, but there's not YouTube yet.
Right.
There's none of that. There's no social media yet. MySpace wasn't a thing yet, or it may be just starting to be a thing, but there was no video integration on MySpace back then. Yeah. So, you know, I was like, okay, I could just be a freelancer and just do jobs for bike companies. And, you know, that was when I kind of got my foot in the door with like companies like Red Bull. I'm doing some work for Nike, doing some other works for other brands that were corporate sponsors coming into BMX. You know, they would kind of take care of filmers like myself. Like there was a period of time, and this is fast forwarding a few years, but from like 2008 to 2015, I don't know why, but this is when I was like really heavy into working with a lot of different brands across BMX and a lot of the corporate money coming in. I was like lucky to kind of get little pieces of it as it came in. But like back then, Nike would bring their pro team to China for a 2-week trip, and then I would get invited to come along, and then I would get a plane ticket in my email, and it'd be a first-class ticket to Beijing. Nice. So I'd look, you know, I'd see that I had a $15,000 ticket to Beijing to go film BMXers.
Awesome. You were what, 21?
I was like 26, 27.
Oh, this is later.
So this is, you know, a few
like 2005, 6,
yeah, well, this is like
7, maybe?
This was at 2008 to 2015, and I'm not sure why there was all this money coming in, but there was bigger companies coming in wanting to do big international trips, take their whole team around the world, do like world tours type thing. And I kind of got lucky, and I was in the right place at the right time.
That's when digital technology was taking off too.
Right. Yeah. So that was when like HD video was a thing. Right. And that's when YouTube started to be a thing. So it was kind of an easier way for a new platform for companies to start putting content on. Yeah. But they weren't going full bore just yet. It was still like a lot of the videos I did back then were still going to DVD. So I was making a lot of DVDs back then. But then, you know, like kind of closer pushing towards 2015, that's when like the YouTube and the online stuff.
Yeah, it was a funny
really
time. It's when Sony and Microsoft were fighting over Blu-ray and HD DVDs.
Right.
And it's like Blu-ray 1, and let's just stop using DVDs altogether.
Yeah, it all kind of just went out the window around that time. Yeah,
because I remember thinking back then, I was like, that's when hard drives were getting really big and cheap.
Right.
And I was like, why don't we just store our movies on hard drives? Like, why do we have these big stacks of DVDs? And sure enough, and they were doing. Actually, it started, I think, 2008 or 9. They had just started doing. Was it Violet or something? Like you'd buy a Blu-ray and it would have this code you could put in, and it would actually give you a digital copy
digital download,
online.
yeah.
The ultraviolet or whatever.
Ultraviolet, yeah.
Right, there you go.
Yeah.
That was a short-lived thing. The
it
technology,
was,
right? Yeah.
Well, it just went away, I think, 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
But it never really took off because
Right.
it got replaced by other stuff quickly.
Yeah, the streaming kind of just overtook all that stuff.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yep.
But yeah. So I guess to answer your question, I don't really know how I fell into being an entrepreneur. I guess it was just trial and error over my early part of my career, learning how to not continue being a starving freelance artist, learning how to make those business relationships, and, learning how to, the other hard part about being a young filmmaker is learning how to charge the right amount of money.
Yeah.
And learning how to kind of take it to the next level, how to get to the bigger projects. Those building blocks take time.
Yeah.
They take practice. It takes experience. It takes making connections.
Yeah.
It takes not burning bridges. It takes effort and hustle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I think, working on your craft and perfecting it, and then also, really, I guess most entrepreneurs, it's trying to solve problems to reach your goals, right? To pursue your passions, and but it's cool the way you're doing it because you've got now you have multiple interests. So you have multiple companies, and each company is going in, its own direction, but they're still all related, and so you're finding a way to duplicate your efforts in a real creative way, like because if you just did videos for people or different documentaries or whatever that you want to do, you're still restricted to what you can do.
Right.
Whereas if you create companies that do these things, you can hire other people, you can duplicate your efforts and grow even more.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Do bigger, better things.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny too. Like I talked to a lot of my buddies that are around my same age and been in the film industry about as long as I have too. And it's funny. Everybody has such different trajectories because you do things a certain way. You meet certain clients or you have certain opportunities that not everybody has, and you pick your avenues. You pick where you put your hustle and where you put your effort, and sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. But the trajectory of every filmmaker's career is different based on who they get approached by, what deals fall into their lap, where they end up going, what clients they're working for. There's a lot of variables, but I'm very happy with the way things have turned out for me. There's been ups and downs, of course, but overall, I've gotten to be my own boss my whole adult life, so I got no complaints.
And you win by that. That's a win on its own. Mm-hmm. I think for me, and I know you're a lot the same way. There's so many different things I would like to do, but I can't do all of them. But I can find people that can do them,
right?
And I can produce them, and that's kind of where I'm headed. I think is, just finding the right people to help me create the visions I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great when you have other people help you build that.
Yeah. Because I think, multiple minds can do more than one mind anyway.
For sure.
Right.
And that's another big thing. I'm very excited about my new partnership production company. It's a joint venture between myself and my business partner, Ryan Timms. He's a filmmaker based in Durham. Younger version of myself. He's 10 years younger than me, but he's been doing it. He's been doing it a long time, and he's also came from the action sports background. He's a professional rollerblader for a period of time. So him and I have very different kind of outlook on the industry and just kind of like that kind of like action sports mentality that we kind of taking to a lot of our corporate video work now, which has been a lot of fun. We're kind of just getting started, but we see a bright future where we're going with our company. So we're pretty excited about that. Seems
like rollerblading would be a good way to a rollerblader that is also a DP.
Yeah.
Seems like a good combo.
Oh, he's such a badass filmer on his skates. He can like drop into a ramp on his skates, like follow cam.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He can get shots that basically no one else in the world can get because he's such a good skater.
Yeah.
So I could never jump on skates and fly around a skate park like that without killing myself and my camera. So it's awesome that my partner can do that pretty well.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's like a human dolly.
Yeah, pretty much. I do a lot of filming on a skateboard, but I'm by no means a great skater. I can skate in a straight line fast enough to keep up with a guy doing a trick.
Right, yeah. But even on a skateboard, I think you're more restricted than you would be with rollerblades.
Right. Rollerblades, you could go faster. You could change directions very quickly.
Yeah.
You know, you can whip around bowls. I mean, good skateboarders can do that too, but the way I use it is more kind of a back and forth type dolly for the type of filming that I do.
And with the gimbals they have today, they're unbelievable. Yeah. So
the gimbal technology is great.
Yeah.
I don't use it for the BMX videos I do. I don't use a ton of gimbals. That's just a style preference, but they're great for a lot of the production work we do for sure.
Cool. What do you guys have? I just watched a part of a documentary you just did that was really awesome with what's Nathan
Williams. Yes,
Nathan Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you filmed it out in San Diego.
Yeah, so that was that was pretty much the only real documentary project I got to work on last year during COVID. And I flew out to San Diego with another filmmaker, Daryl Taco, and another team manager, Jay Rowe, who we all work with Nathan. Nathan's one of the professional writers we sponsor for the brands we work for. And he's such an interesting guy. I've known him for a long time. He's like one of those like really kind of like quiet, mysterious guys. So we had this idea to do this kind of like one-off documentary about him and his love for like camping and the outdoors and nature, not just the tricks and the bikes, but just kind of go a little bit deeper into that. And
beautifully shot, by the way.
Well, thank you, thank you. Yeah, we got to we shot that on a bunch of different cameras. We used a Red camera and drone and a bunch of 16mm and Super 8 film. Cool. But yeah, that was we kind of just planned like a little 2-week road trip from San Diego to Denver, and we just camped along the way. We hit some towns that we knew had some stuff to ride and some camping, and we just that was just kind of a go on a trip, make a documentary. There was no real plan going into it other than just try to make something cool and different for Nathan rather than a traditional bike video, which we've seen a million times.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, that was a lot of fun to work on. It's kind of
more of a lifestyle video.
Yeah, more of a lifestyle piece for sure. But that was a lot of fun to work on.
Cool. What do you have coming up?
Coming up, trying to think. I have a really fun project, but I'm under NDA for it. I guess I can say I'm doing a new series of videos for some heavy equipment companies.
Oh, cool.
That is going to be a lot of fun. That'll be coming out this summer. And then we're doing, for cinema, for the BMX company I'm working for, we're going to Cincinnati here in a few weeks, bringing the whole team out, the guys out from California to Cincinnati, and we're just going to spend a week filming in Cincinnati. Nice. These are the guys that ride street, too, so we're going to be out jumping down stairs, riding the handrails, wall rides, that kind of thing. We don't really go to the trails, the dirt jumps, or the skate parks as much. These are the guys that just want to get footage out in the streets.
Kind of like some of the Red Bull videos.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we'll be doing that for the week in Cincinnati. Other than that, got a few local projects. Doing some videos for some hospitals, some pharma videos. That's the other cool thing too with my new production company. We work across like multiple industries. We do some healthcare videos. We do some educational videos. We do some BMX and skate videos. So we get to work with a lot of cool clients across the whole spectrum of anybody that would need content. So that's one thing that keeps our production company a lot of fun. Trying to think of what else we immediately have coming up. We have a lot of editing for the heavy equipment company, and then some more shooting for them, and then some BMX stuff. So yeah, and that's the fun thing too. We keep our schedule pretty filled out, but the strange thing is you don't want to be too busy to accept new work as it comes in, because a lot of work just falls into our lap, and you kind of have to be ready to take it, or it's going to get passed to someone else. Yeah. So yeah, it seems like we're gonna have a pretty busy summer.
Awesome.
And also, I mean, a lot of artists today, they think they have to move to Atlanta or LA or somewhere in New York, but you don't have to, right?
Yeah.
It's the world's so small now.
Yeah.
It's all digital.
You really don't, and for what my companies do, we work with marketing companies that have budgets that they want content created, and they're everywhere. You just have to look. Yeah. And they're more now than there were 5 years ago because they understand the importance of video, and you don't have to move to Atlanta or New York or California.
Yeah, because you can travel anywhere.
We do travel sometimes, but there's the bulk of our work for my new company is based kind of locally, Raleigh, Durham. Nice. We do a lot of stuff in Charlotte, but I'd say about at least 75% of what we do is in North Carolina right now, which is nice. I do love traveling, and that's always been something I've loved doing for BMX, but it's nice. More recently, a lot of my work is not getting on planes, not traveling as much with equipment.
Okay.
That part gets
I'm sure.
tough.
Yeah.
When you got multiple Pelican cases and camera bags trying to go on planes, it's not fun.
Yeah.
Expensive gear.
Pain.
Yeah.
I'm sure. What are your future projections for your companies? Like, where are you headed?
Yeah. So for cinema, we just continue planning these team trips every year. So that's like the best way I compare that would be like going on tour with a band. You're like in this van with this band of misfits. These are all pro bike riders. They say stop the van at any time. They get out. They go jump off the sidewalk, do some tricks. We film it. And I'll make videos from those trips several times a year. So for cinema, we just continue hitting different cities and different markets, and we also stop in at like local bike shops that carry our products and do signings and meet kids and that type of stuff for the cinema BMX for that side of my work. And then for my production company, we're just working with a lot more companies across the board. Like I said, we work across multiple industries. We got probably about 10 to 15 active clients right now. So we're just kind of managing them, and they approach us with ideas. We approach them with ideas. We're going, we're in pre-production on certain projects. We're shooting some things, and we're in post on some things. So we're getting to the point now where we've had to outsource some of our editing, which is nice because I don't really love editing anymore, especially when you got more projects coming in than you can churn out.
Yeah.
So we're shooting a lot of projects. I guess that's what I enjoy the most, is being on set and shooting, working with the clients in person. And then now we're kind of getting in a better workflow of passing our footage off to be edited. Like we have a great editor in Kansas City and another one in Houston. We just ship hard drives or
nice.
Dropbox stuff, and we get a nice piece back and it's ready to show the client.
That's great. Yeah. So that's efficiency there.
Yeah. So we're scaling, and we're learning what works, what doesn't work. We're still a startup. It's just myself and my partner, but we've got a couple of like freelancers that are really solid that are working under us pretty closely now.
That's great. Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun. It's fun to kind of start. We're kind of starting from scratch with two guys with a lot of experience, a lot of connections, kind of joining forces, starting from scratch, and then kind of hit the ground running. Now that COVID feels like it's lifting, it's surprising how much people are out there ready to spend money on videos.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's people that have been cooped up, haven't got to spend these marketing budgets, so it's like, get out there, find the deals, make the content is what we're kind of in that mode right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the entertainment industry is going to boom. Actually, I think most industries are going to boom except for real estate.
Yeah. About to hit the roaring 20s.
Commercial real estate, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see.
But I don't. What do you think about that? What
About real estate?
No, just about the economy over the next year or 2 years.
I think it depends on what type of plans get passed and how much more debt that the country takes on. But no matter what, it's a supply and demand thing. If there's more money in supply due to printing new money, right, it devalues the money that's in existence, which means inflation's coming.
Yeah.
You get a lot of things that are going on in the economy. Part of everybody blames the price of wood on COVID, but actually, if you dig a little deeper, there were all these forest fires previous to that. So there's a lot of factors that contribute to some of the price increases that we have now, and some of those things will go away. But right now, you've got this massive demand for housing, and the cost to build has went through the roof. So that creates another barrier, right? So its cost to build goes up. That means that the deal on a used house, right, an existing home, looks even more appealing. Now the time to build has to be factored in because inventory is so backlogged, right? It's taking so long to get things, they're not in stock. Like, try to go buy a fridge right now, you're 8-10 weeks out. Furniture, same thing. So now, because of this time to build, we've also got this tightening of supply, the existing supply. And I think that you've got all these factors. But what's going to happen at some point, I think there's like 14 or 15 unfinished skyscrapers in Miami right now. There are markets, there's stuff being built as quickly as it can be. But at some point, these projects start to finish. At some point, the supply returns. At some point, we start to catch up. And as that happens, the time to build and the cost to build comes down, which is going to force the existing inventory price down as well. So you'll start to hit a ceiling, right? The thing that I'm fearful of is how much of inflation is going to take effect, and it's happening right now. There are very few people talking about it. It's already happened. Literally, it's there. The good news is real estate's a hedge against inflation.
Mm-hmm.
So now if you own even your own home, even just that's a good hedge against inflation. So if we have these wild inflationary times, and you have some real estate, I think you've got a safe bet.
I've also heard some financial experts talk about our generation and the generations before us have all been really afraid of we've all been taught that inflation is a really terrifying thing. It's like, so it's the end of the world, but
it's only terrifying if you're hoarding cash.
Right.
You're not. I mean, like that's where it becomes a problem.
Because the money devalues.
The money's it's designed to devalue, and in high inflation times, it just does that faster.
But money's all digital anyway, and it can be divided to infinity. You know what I mean? Like there's unlimited amount of times you can divide money. So, I mean, you can look at other economies like in China. You know, a dollar here is worth how many dollars in China?
Yeah, I like that argument. The only difference is, you know, in like Zimbabwe when it's $2 trillion for a milk.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, like
it gets a little absurd.
Yeah. What you're saying is accurate.
Yeah.
The problem is how quickly does the inflation take place? Because what happens is everybody that can't move their money quick enough, right? The people on the lower end of that are going to be the brunt of that,
right,
because they think they've got. Let's say that you worked really hard and you've got 40 grand sitting in your mattress today.
Savings is not the way.
Right. Yeah. Saver. Yeah. You know, I'll steal Robert Kiyosaki. I think that's who it was, but he said savers are losers.
Right.
Yeah. That's true.
You know, but if you're a saver mindset and you're hoarding cash and cash gets devalued. Right, like what you're saying is,
if you pull your money out of the system, it doesn't work anymore.
Exactly. So if milk is $4 a gallon and then it goes to $8 a gallon, your 40 grand you had sitting or 80 grand you had sitting is literally cut in half in value.
Right.
Overnight. Yeah. And I think that's where inflation can be a problem. That's why I say, you know, what do you have the money stored in? Right?
Well, that's also why you had like, you go 100 years ago or 100 and some years ago, you had the Vanderbilts.
Yeah.
Richest people in the world. They were in the millions.
Yeah.
You know, so back then you had like somebody was worth $100 million. It would be equivalent to somebody today that's worth, you know, $10 million or $100 million.
Yeah.
Or then you have billionaires. Yeah. So back then you only had millionaires. Now you have billionaires. Soon we'll have trillionaires.
That's crazy.
We actually technically do. Just they're in the Middle East. You don't know who they are.
Right.
But,
no, I think if you go back, and that's why they have to adjust to today's time, those net worths back then, and you know it's a rough, crude estimate, but you know when you adjust it, some of those families 200 years ago were wealthier than families today, but adjusted for inflation, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very real thing. We can't ignore it, but I just think that inflation is going to be higher, which means
you just have to keep investing.
Yeah. So everybody's like, well, the real estate market's going to crash. I do think that there's a correction coming. I don't think there's going to be a crash, and I think the correction comes in the form of as supply starts to become available, as the cost to build goes down, as inventory becomes available to build, more houses, more apartments, more condos, more things will be available, which will soften the real estate market.
And the interest rates will go up.
And the interest rates are going to go up, which is going to cause another interesting thing.
Maybe.
I'm glad you brought that up.
That's up in the air, right?
The interest, I think they're going up.
With inflation, that will be a natural backlash, right?
Eventually,
but they should have went up during the last recession, and they didn't.
They were kept down artificially, though. That's the key. So, like, how much money do we print, and how much artificially do we force the interest rates down? So,
but isn't it one of those things where we can kind of do that anyway?
I don't think they will.
You don't think so?
I think the interest rates are going to come up a little bit. The Fed will soften, and so as that happens, as interest rates rise,
I mean, they're already up a little bit now.
They are. As interest rates rise, people can afford less home.
But I don't think they'll ever get like they were back in like the 70s.
No, I don't think that'll happen either.
Like
but
15% interest rates.
Right.
You know,
but 2.5% versus 6%. You know,
we're not. Big difference.
We're not talking about a 220, 250% multiple because time value of money. What you're really talking about is a 30 times multiple over an extended period of time.
Yeah.
So I do think those small changes are going to affect the market, but because of inflation, when I say the market's going to soften, that doesn't necessarily mean exactly what you think. A house that's $200,000 today because of inflation might be $250,000, and if the market softens by 10%, that house drops to $225,000. It's still worth more than the $200,000, but is it really, right? We have to factor inflation, so it just like people are taking things literally, but they're not really seeing that $225,000 in the future is not worth.
It's just the new $200,000.
Exactly, it's the new $200,000.
It's the same thing.
So you just got to account for the buffer.
You got to account for the buffer, right? So like this gets really, really complex, but. And I don't know all of it, obviously, but my thought process is you need to be in things that are going to hedge against inflation because it's coming. And I think owning a home, honestly, this is my opinion. I think that there are a lot of people that are going to be lifetime renters, and I think that that's becoming more common.
Yep.
And it's turning into a renter nation, and I'm okay with that. But I think that's going to be a very common thing.
Well, people move a lot more now too.
They do.
Yeah, people relocate a lot.
So we'll see. I mean, it's going to be very interesting. But obviously, we own a lot of real estate, and well, I guess that's relative what a lot is. But you know, I still love commercial, certain types of commercial. I think there's going to be a restructuring. I think what's going to happen with commercial real estate is you're going to see cap rates go up. And a cap rate going up in commercial real estate means that the price has to come down, because a cap rate is basically the capitalized return annually. So rough math, if the cap rate is 3%, the only way you get the cap rate to go up is by raising rents, which in this market you can't, you may not be able to do. You're probably losing tenants.
Right.
So the way you get the cap rate to go up is you have to drop the price, because if you pay less, then that return becomes more substantial. Right.
Yeah.
The existing return on the property.
And that's more like people losing properties.
Yeah. So you're going to have that happen.
The commercial real estate will probably take a dive.
Yeah, you're going to see that happen, and I think you're going to have right now in commercial. Historically, the last decade, you were lucky if you got 3 to 5% returns on as far as cap rates on certain commercial properties. I think those caps are going to go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%, because they've got to be more appealing. Because what's going to happen? Like, let's say Bed Bath & Beyond right now, right? They are closing retail locations, right? Not because they're under financial strain, but because they just don't need them.
Yeah.
So how do you repurpose that space, that retail space? Is this going to be dry storage, right? Is this going to be? Are we going to turn it into cubicles? What are we going to do?
Skate parks.
Skate parks. But I mean, you're going to repurpose this, and so that's yet to be determined.
Yeah.
But when you go to repurpose it, there's acquisition costs, there's construction costs, there's there's all these different factors. So you've got to make it appealing, which means the price of the property is going to drop.
Yeah.
So it's inevitable. So that's going to happen, but that doesn't mean there's no opportunity.
Yeah.
It just means be aware of it, and you're either going to ride it, you're just going to own the property through all those phases, or you're going to be on the end right now where you're trying to cut your losses. Mr. Wonderful, they went from 36% commercial holding down to, I think, 8% of his portfolio. So that's a good person to look at for this. You're gonna exit the properties that you think are going to be most affected, and then you're going to look for a position over the next 18 to 24 months to find a spot into. Once you see these higher cap rates, and you find a new entry point into these properties. So it's very similar to the stock market, right? I kind of liken it to, you've got record high in the stock market. You find a place to exit. You park the funds somewhere else. You wait for everything to normalize, quote unquote, and then you find a reentry point. Staying out for too long, no matter how smart you are, then now you've not hedged against inflation.
You lose.
You lose.
Right.
You stop growth. Yeah.
So, and these are all my opinions, obviously, but like, you start to look at this as a big picture thing. Like, people try to dial in on one thing, go, you're wrong, but you got to kind of look at the whole thing.
Right.
Like,
yeah, I agree with everything you said. And me turning 40, I think I reevaluated all my finances. I was like, this is a big milestone. I have to make some power moves. And kind of during COVID, I tried just educating myself as much as I could, reading as much, just watching as much content as I could about all this stuff. And I pretty much did just that. I put all my money into real estate, stocks, and crypto now, and I have very little cash in the bank. And it's scary as hell, but I'm telling myself I'm doing the right thing. I guess
you're doing the right thing,
we'll
man.
see,
I still,
if you hold on to money, you're losing at least 3% a year.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and I think old GC, Uncle G, Grant Cardone also says cash is trash too. I mean, cash used as a way to leverage into things, or cash used to acquire other things. But like, we have revenue that comes in. That's what cash is. It's just revenue, right? You have things that put off money. Maybe that's your personal. Maybe you are the thing that generates the money, right? So the disservice you do to yourself is to park that and it's not invested in things, right? Like, you think cash. Most people are brainwashed. They think storing cash, whether it's in the pillow sack, underneath the mattress, or in the bank or the safe deposit box, you think that that's safety. But the reality is that money is designed to go down in value.
Appreciates, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's not a surprise. That's actually what it was designed to do.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it gives people like a false sense of security too.
It
Like,
does.
I've got this 20 grand and no one can ever touch it or take it from me. But it's easy to not think about the deflationary side of it. Yeah.
No, and even like what you just said, I still have to like self-talk.
Yeah.
I have to tell myself, like, why am I trying to hold on to this thing? I don't want the cash. What I want is to control an asset that generates revenue.
And that evolves with the economy.
Because guess what? If you want to pay me in cryptocurrency or cows or sheep or corn or whatever fiat of the time, 50 years from now, it doesn't matter. I'll take it. I control the real asset, and real, in quotations, real means different things. So, I think that's what's important, is like, I literally get the money and I'm like, what do I do with this money? Every dollar needs a job. What is the job of this dollar? And sitting is very dangerous.
Yes. Yes.
I also, people get into these real things like, well, how much do you put in this? How much do you put in that? Mine is kind of somewhat just, maybe it's dumb luck or just common sense.
Yeah.
Like, Warren Buffett says you should only invest in things that you know, right? And I like that.
Also, you have to be careful. I know you mentioned this recently to me. You were talking about how you have to be careful to not get caught up in too small of investments.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You're wasting time.
Yeah.
We got we got some NDAs too as well. I don't like signing them, but anyway, we've got an opportunity, let's say, and they come to us. We thankfully get to see opportunities quite often, and we generate most of them, but then also people bring them to us. But and without being anything specific, imagine it almost felt like I'm putting cash in a mattress to me. Like that's how I started to feel.
Yep.
Hey, we've got this concept. It's going to generate revenue, and we're going to take that revenue and we're going to park it, right? And we're not going to do anything with it because we need it for acquisition costs in the future, maybe, with a question mark, right? And you're going to tie up X dollars, whatever that number is, for an extended period of time. Let's call it 7 years, without making $1, right? And then we're going to park all this money for this supposed opportunity that we don't know exists yet. Like, all I see is risk because I have 100% of my money at risk guaranteed for 7 years because that's what they're laying out here. And then any number of things can happen. And then I see that we're hoarding cash for an acquisition that may never take place, right? And so, like, for me as a business owner, as an investor, as an entrepreneur, my very first goal is, rule number one from Warren Buffett, don't lose money, right? My very second goal is so literally my goal is I put $100,000 into something, let's say, or $1 million. My goal is step one is how do I get my $1 million back, right? And once I've done that, now for a lack of a better term, I'm on house money, right? Yep. Now how do I move forward? Like so plan one is get my investment back out. How quickly can I do that? And when I hear 7 years, I'm like, this is a terrible, like it just doesn't make sense for the type of investor I am, for the type of things that we do. So I want to see what is the projection to get my money back. Second from that, what is the potential moving forward? But what Neil and I were talking about here recently, like we've got a lot of projects. We got 9 big ones that we're in various phases of, and a couple of those we're wrapping up. And what we're figuring out is, on some level, let's say like the company that you've put together, a lot of those steps that you took to put that company together would have been the same whether it was $1 million company or a $100 million company. A lot of them, there's a lot of overlap, right? And the difference is what's the payout in long term. And so Neil and I have, unfortunately, I suffer from this. There was a period where I just said yes to everything because it did make sense on paper, right? It made sense. But when you look at it over a long period of time, I only have so much time, only have so much energy, and there's a lot of heavy lifting with things that don't produce a real, a return that's sufficient to justify all that work. Yeah. And a good example of this is, every residential property under a certain price point, let's call it $400K, we've unloaded every one of them for 2 reasons. One, the market's stupid, right? And I got 140% of what I would have gotten if I'd have sold it last year, right? But I've been able to take all this equity out of these properties, and I do believe them to be inflated, and they've grown in value so fast it's outpaced the rents that I can charge, right? So as a way for me to pull out a substantial amount of money. But then the other side of this is, it takes just as much effort almost to manage, a single family home at $400K as it does for me to manage a single property with, say, 36 units in it. Right. And so, we're trying to take those resources and reallocate them so it's a bigger play. So, it's an interesting thing.
That's smart. I wish the commercial real estate and the apartments and stuff, that's something I'm very interested in, but that's like still, I feel like I'm years away from being ready for that. I would still consider myself too much of a newbie to jump into something.
I think you're just right, man. Like I think that this crazy stuff's going on with apartment complexes. Where the cap rates are like 2.5% and 3%. It's just stupid, right? I mean, you've got major billion-dollar hedge funds and people's retirements and teachers unions. They're literally buying up these properties, and they're taken basically just as an inflation hedge, right? And so I think that will soften eventually as well. 18 months, 24 months. But there's an opportunity. So, like, even in commercial, I think, maybe not commercial apartment complexes, but just commercial, like the Bed Bath & Beyonds, the Bath & Body Works, just think like former Kmart buildings. When they went under, it took a long time for them to repurpose those buildings. Right? That's what's going to have to happen. So this is actually going on right now. So maybe in 18 or 24 months, you may not be ready today, but maybe by that point, you've positioned yourself well to take advantage of some of those opportunities.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yep. So, do you have a belief about debt? I mean, like,
I believe. Well, I'm proud to say I'm 40 and I've never really had any debt. I don't like debt. I don't like knowing I have credit card bills or any unpaid debt. I mean, granted, we have our mortgage debt. You get some bad luck here and there. You got some money you got to pay back, yes. But I mean, I'll take on mortgage debt, no problem. But I like trying to live as a freelancer, as a self-employed guy. I've just taught myself, don't buy shit you can't afford.
Yeah, no,
that's
I like
my big
that.
thing.
And I'll tell you, debt crushed me, and really more so it was decisions, taking my eye off the ball, and the lifestyle that I was living, a decade ago, and the debt was what did me in. Obviously, if I had been debt free, you could make a lot more mistakes, and the fall is much slower, right?
Right.
But so I'm kind of torn on this because there's some Dave Ramsey principles. I actually was supposed to be at Dave's event in Dallas here just a few weeks ago. And some things came up, I wasn't able to go. But I like some of his stuff. Yeah. I really do. And some of it doesn't really apply as far as a business, right? But as an individual, like having debt for consumer electronics, for consumer goods, that makes absolutely no sense, right? This is where, you rack up 20 grand on a credit card buying crap you don't need, and you spend 15, 20 years paying for it, that's a problem.
Yeah, big time.
I kind of lean towards, especially when you're younger, let's say you're late teens, early 20s, mid 20s, late 20s. As you get in the early 30s, I start to get a little bit more hesitant. If you're going to take on debt, right, and risk things, make sure you've got time to recover.
Yeah.
As you start to age and you get closer to, I don't believe in traditional retirement, but you get closer to what, the world defines as retirement, I think you have to take on less risk, and that means you need to be focused on being debt-free.
Right.
Because at 60, you have a whole lot less time to recover than you do at 25.
For sure.
So, that's the kind of the way I look at it. Like, as you age, I think take on less leverage.
For sure.
And, almost every, I can't name any. We have the float, the credit card float. We pay ours off, all of our company cards. I'm pretty sure every single company we have, every card gets paid off every Monday.
Yeah. Even my personal cards I pay off every week.
Every week.
That's good.
So, across the board, we have a 30-day float with all credit cards, right?
Right.
But we don't even use that.
Yeah.
Like, literally, it's every week.
If you get in the habit of doing that, that's great.
Just pay everything every week, and this way you carry nothing. And I'm not going to say we're not going to take on debt. There may be strategic times where, and this is fictitious, but let's just say you had, pick a number, $20 million in real estate just tied up. It's completely, it's illiquid and liquid at the same time, right? And I needed that $20 million to do another project. The only way you get it is you either sell it, right, or you take a note against the property.
Right.
Yeah.
And, so I'm not going to say I wouldn't take a note against the property, leverage into another one, but I'm not going to leverage $20 million for another $20 million property. What's probably going to happen is you're going to tie $20 million up to get an $80 million property.
Right.
Right. But so some of those things start to get like, well, how much risk do we want to take on? Because if you own something free and clear, is it really worth, how much leverage do you utilize?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's where I start to go, well, what's my risk tolerance at this point?
I think you also, you can try to create like maybe a safety platform. You know what I mean? Like, so you say, well, I have anything below this point needs to stay where it's at. Anything above it, I can take some chances.
Yeah.
And another issue too today is that we don't really know how long life is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like with some of the stuff that's on its way with genetics and things like that, we may not have.
Well, see, my answer to that is the Johnson & Johnson family. It's called. There's a book. One of the family attorneys.
Oh yeah, you told me
third
about
generation family attorney for the Johnson family and others. I think it's called Family Wealth. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, to sum it up, you should think 5 generations.
Yeah.
Like my fortune, like what I'm building, I'm not thinking about what's going to last my lifetime or my children's lifetime. I'm thinking 5 generations from me.
But you may be alive in 5 generations.
True.
I mean,
true.
it's possible.
That's
you know?
crazy to think, yeah.
Seems
Yeah.
crazy, but it's
Yeah.
possible.
So
yeah.
good news for me is whether or not I am, I'm planning for that, right? But that's, if we think about money over that period of time, if everybody did, no matter, I don't care if you started with, everybody, let's say you're born and you start with 0, but if you thought 5 generations, like if you had that much time, and we know time value of money, if you put $100 a month in the bank at 18, and by the time you retire, it's like $2.6 million at like a 6% return, right?
Right.
Like we're talking about, even $100 a month can turn into something huge over a long period of time. So like if you think about it from a 5 generations point of view, go back 5 generations, you could have bought any land, any business, anything, like you'd think, okay, now we've got time on our side. So if we start to take this much longer view about what it means to be financially responsible, I think that helps solve some of these things. And I say, everybody says, oh, it's millennials, oh, it's this, it's that. They want instant gratification. I believe that every generation has had some instant gratification problems, right? And I think delayed gratification is really hard. And as I do better financially, it's becoming more and more challenging.
That's right. There's also the argument too, like I agree with everything you just said, but there's also the argument too is like, yes, I'm going to hodl everything as long as I can, but I want to also remember on the flip side of that to try to enjoy some of what I'm saving before it's too late. I want to buy that Tesla before I'm 90. If that's what it is.
I agree with that. And I'm enjoying it. I had to wait to enjoy some of it. But the way I would answer that too is, what are things that you're passionate about, right? Like I really like. There's a book called The Blue Wave or The Blue Mind, but talks about the effects of the ocean on the human brain, right? And I read it several years ago, and it got me really thinking. And so it's very therapeutic for me. And I love the Gulf of Mexico. I love the Gulf Coast, specifically St. Pete Beach. And so for me, the way I look at it is, how do I do an investment, right? Instead of sticking money in the stock market, which makes a lot of sense, crypto makes a lot of sense, but I can't go enjoy that. So I can take part of my portfolio and put it on the ocean, right? And whatever periods of the year I want to use it, I can utilize that for free. And I rent the property out during the rest of the year, and it's also a performing asset, right? And literally most of these vacation properties, if you buy them right, usually you can rent them during their peak season for the 40 to 60% of the year, and it at minimum breaks even.
Nice.
You can own it for free.
Yeah, that's great.
That doesn't factor in inflation. It doesn't factor in the fact that the property is going to appreciate in value over time.
And also the whatever mental value you get from being able to enjoy the property.
That's great.
So like what you're saying, like, hey, I want to enjoy some money. So one of the challenges that I bring upon myself is, how do I enjoy my money and also still be an investment? But it's got to be something that I wanted to do. And that's kind of fun.
That is
trying to figure out ways to do that. I'm currently doing that with the cars I own. I currently do that with some of the we'll call them vacation homes investments we have. So it's my partner's doing that. He doesn't think that's what he's doing, but he's doing it with an airplane that he owns. So I mean, I think that's really fun. Like you're saying, how do I get the Tesla? Like the other side of it is, either one, how do you make the Tesla pay for itself, or two, get in a business that puts off enough cash flow to not only justify that investment, but also buys you the Tesla.
The passive income. That's right. That's key for us.
Because you can spend passive income till you're blue in the face, right? As long as you don't touch the principal.
This
is what I hate about gold, right? Like if I took a brick of gold and I stuck it in the safe 100 years ago and I opened it today, it's still one brick of gold. It doesn't magically have gold babies.
And you're not going to chip it into little pieces to go pay for your Starbucks or anything.
So now, granted, everybody says, oh, the gold went up in value. Yeah, that one brick of gold went up, but I didn't get anything. It didn't produce anything, right? Whereas if I owned, say, a single-family home 100 years ago and I chose to rent it, I'd still own the single-family home today. I'd still have that, just like one brick of gold. And it also went up in value, just like the brick of gold did. But it also put off cash for 100 years.
Producing something.
So, and that's it's kind of like why I kind of stay away from collectibles. Like one of my brothers is huge into collectibles, but the only way you get the money from the asset is by selling it.
Well, I have to ask you, since you brought that up, about NFTs. Where do you think NFTs are going?
So this is going to be interesting. Actually, I'm going to let you take over because on the NFT thing, but I actually think this could be an interesting change to that.
I think it's going to be something. I don't know what's going to come of it or what's going to come out on top.
Right now, we're in the hype part of it. We're in like the bubble. Oh, Charlie, you bit my finger. Like they just turned that into an NFT. But Neil just did something with a piece of art.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, so I think it's a novelty thing, right? So it's brand new, and I think there's some really positive aspects of it for copyright type things. I don't think a lot of the items that are selling for these absorbent amount of money are going to keep doing that. It's like it's novelty. It's just it's kind of a show off type thing. But I think in the future though, with quality pieces of artwork and even physical things, you can attach an NFT to it so it gives it like a one-off
certification.
Yes. So it's similar to a copyright. And I think you could do that with anything. You could attach it to a film or a painting or whatever.
Yep.
But I think it's part of the same thing that we're experiencing with cryptocurrencies, and people are realizing that, our concept of money is just a social construct. It's worth whatever we think it's worth. So we can value other things the same way. Just like individuals in our society currently, we look at all the people in our society as liabilities, but we should look at people as assets. They should be valuable to our society because they are the society, right? Mm-hmm. And so I just think it's part of that change of mindset about what's valuable and how to add value to things.
Yeah, a couple things like NFTs. I'm interested in them for a couple reasons. One, it's also like I've been thinking about it too. Like I have this footage of guys like Dave Meera and some pro BMXers. Like, could I make an NFT, like a clip, like a never been done before trick, making an NFT?
Absolutely.
Does that have any value? Do people care? Does anybody want to buy it? I don't know.
I mean, today you should do it. Because I don't know how long that'll last.
That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, you should definitely do that.
I should use this as an excuse to remind me to do this and not just talk
and it's
about
easy
it.
to do too.
Yeah. I might have to hit you up about that.
Yeah.
The second thing was there's another YouTube channel I watch pretty frequently. You might know about it. Do you know the Altcoin Daily guys? Do you follow them? Those guys are great. I
don't follow them like religiously, but every once in a while I read a tremendous amount, and then when I drive a lot. I drive about 4 hours a day minimum, and so I do a lot of podcasts and stuff like that. So I will. While I'm going down the rabbit hole, I will find myself there.
Yeah, those guys are great, and they had Kevin Smith, the film director, on there recently, and he was talking about how Hollywood is coming for NFTs. Like they've already, the new.
You think that's more so from a copyright perspective, and more so from?
I think it's partly the collectibles, the nerds that are the collectors, like Kevin Smith, right? You got Mallrats, you got Clerks, you got that cult following, the indie film cult. So he's making, like Jay and Silent Bob, they're making a smoking token is what it's called. So you can buy an NFT of a smoking token. There's like 100 issued, and they're like $2,500 each. So do those have value? I don't know. I mean, is there enough Jay and Silent Bob fans out there that will buy those, and will those go up in value over time? I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
You should check that video out, though, because they interviewed him, and he basically said that I've been approached by some people that brought me into the whole DeFi movement, and I'm learning about NFTs, and I'm very interested. And the Hollywood movie studios are coming for it. Yeah. It's just a matter of time before the content will be NFTs. I'm
going to dumb this way down and just say, and this is not a true exchange, a true simulation here, but imagine I'm Jay and Bob, I'm
Jay and Silent Bob.
Jay and Silent Bob, and I'm going to make 100 T-shirts, only 100. I'm going to sell them for $2,500 each, and they're going to have each one's going to have an independent artwork, right? And I'm only selling 100.
And they're selling.
Are there people that would pay for that, knowing I'm only going to make 100? I would say the answer to that is yes. Mm-hmm. The difference is the NFT is just the digital version of that.
Yeah.
Right? And then because it's of the nature of the NFT, it has the ability to help force others from the copyright protection, all this other stuff that you can use. Because like the Charlie, you bit my finger thing, I've been hearing that it's getting ready to be wiped from the internet because all those people are in violation. Like so then does that present a new way to pay royalties? So like I'm thinking, is this a solution? So there's the novelty side, which people can capitalize on. But then what I'm wondering is, does this become part of our solutions for the way that we protect against copyright against these other things? And so I'm wondering, is that the real value? And obviously, people are going to make money off the novelty side.
Right.
Well, I'm sure we'll also have in the very near future, we'll probably have software that can use AI to determine if a digital item is
authentic,
or if it's a illegal copy of that item.
Yeah.
And it will just automatically remove it or flag it or whatever. So, I think anything that's a limited edition of something has some value to it. If it's something that would be valuable anyway.
Right. I guess you could take like Pokemon cards as one of those things in real life, and then that'll all become NFTs. It's just a matter of time for it's all digital versions of everything. That's really interesting.
But you can have the physical version that has the digital backup too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just like you could have a painting, you could paint a painting and attach that painting to an NFT and sell that painting, and then that person has their NFT that comes along with it. That's like you said, it's a certificate of authenticity.
Right.
And it's blockchain, so it can't be copied.
Right. Right. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I think the next 5 years for NFTs will be very interesting to see.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
There'll probably be some kind of initial crash before there's before a consolidation and before things kind of work themselves out.
And that crash
right?
eliminates hype too.
Think about something like this too. So Apple's working on some new AR technology. It's supposed to be unbelievable, right? And I would say in the next 5-10 years, we'll have AR glasses that look like regular glasses that are just unbelievably powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And say you have all these NFT pieces of art that you've bought or video clips or whatever, you could actually set those up in your house. You could put them in certain places in your house in the AR dimension. And when your friends come over, they could throw on some AR glasses and see all the artwork in your house that's digital, but it looks like it's actually in your house.
That'll totally be a thing.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So there's so many possibilities with this type of technology.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what's real?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I was looking at the new iPads, right? And all the stuff, and literally I can go on my phone and I can literally I'm just turning my phone and my camera and it's right there.
You can do it with these phones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, it's coming. I don't know, but I think what happens is hype. The initial things is all this hype. It's all this speculation. It's gonna be this thing that will make all this money, right? We're gonna get rich overnight. That's hype, right?
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
And it causes NFTs to go up in value like crazy. What we would describe as a cash really is like bringing it back down to reality.
That's like a hungry person going to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, they overbuy everything,
Pretty
right?
much. Yeah.
And then they eat a little bit and they've had their fill and they realize they bought too much, right?
Yep.
And I feel like that's so. What really happens is we've got to remove the speculation. We got to bring it down to like what's the function. So if things have a function, I think long term, like fighting against copyright infringement and all these other things that it can do, then for me I go, okay, this has long term implications. So I see it having a future, but it's going to be rocky as hell in between.
Yeah. Have you bought any yet?
I haven't bought any yet. My very first purchase was going to be one of his artwork.
Oh, cool.
And what's your? He hasn't put any effort into it whatsoever as far as his.
I haven't looked at it in like a month.
Yeah, but
It's still for sale.
Yeah.
And you haven't even checked on it? What if somebody wants it?
I think I would get an email
get
if
a
it's sold.
notification.
He's got
There's
it on,
so many out there.
What's your?
It's on Rarible.
Rarible. Isn't there another one called OpenSea? Isn't that the other big one?
There's a few.
Okay.
Yeah. Rarible just seemed like the hot one that day.
What's your TikTok? Because you got it on TikTok. You can check it out.
Oh yeah, that's right.
What is it?
It's just Neil Hoover.
Neil Hoover. Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, that'll be the first one that I buy.
need to use TikTok more.
And this becomes my next thing I was going to say is, earlier we're talking about crypto, we're talking about stock, we're talking about real estate, we're talking about all these things, right? What we're really saying is the world as we know it, as we perceive it, is full of opportunity. And you can only choose, like you said, as a filmmaker, not every filmmaker is going to have the same opportunity, right? And you don't know which path they're going to go down. And that's kind of how it is as like an entrepreneur or a business person, right? You don't know, and you're presented with these options. And the great thing is we have free will. I get to pick what I'd like to focus on. And sometimes I'll go down a path that, through hindsight, through being able to look back in the future and go, I should have went the path that Neil went. I should have done this. And that's all fine and dandy, right? But that's the way I look at it. Like, there's just tremendous opportunity.
Right.
And it comes back to that whole thing. I can't do everything. Like, so you say, have I done NFTs? I want to.
Right.
I have the money to.
Right.
I just haven't had a moment to focus, to sit and do it.
Right.
And so that's one of the things, like me, when I'm self-reflection, and I'm going, okay, I need to do a better job. Yep, there it is.
Yeah, that's our NFT. That's awesome.
Yeah,
man.
that's his. That's
so cool.
Isn't that sick?
That's really cool.
He's got another one where it kind of moves a little bit, I think, or something.
That was a TikTok filter.
Yeah, TikTok filter. And
animation.
I'm not saying that you should smoke weed or do any type of edible and do the one that moves, but I think it would be pretty cool. Like, I'm speculating here. But yeah, I think it's very intricate. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's badass, man. That's really cool.
How many did you have?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, how there's just one NFT of this for sale.
No.
I made 50 of them.
50.
Yeah.
And how many ETH or is there?
It changed. It changed so much. It's probably worth more. I had to keep dropping the price because it kept going up in value.
Because ETH was just booming when like 2 weeks ago.
It's like a fraction of the ETH, but
right.
So yeah, that's another thing too about these NFTs is they increase in value, or they fluctuate with the market, whatever the value of the crypto is.
Right.
And you can also create,
which is another hedge against inflation.
Right.
I didn't do this, but I should have. You can actually create your own coin.
Oh, right.
With the NFTs, so like you can create a coin that's based on that item.
You just have a Neil coin.
Yeah, but
whatever,
and it's just backed by Ethereum or whatever, or whatever crypto you use. I think this actually is a Rarible.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you manually have to change the price, or does it change automatically?
You manually have to.
Based on the fluctuation of ETH,
the
right?
value of it goes up, so it's based on Ethereum's value,
right?
Or the Rarible coin value, which is based on Ethereum. So it'll just right now it's getting more expensive because it's just priced based on that coin.
Yeah.
But you can go in and say, well, instead of being 0.01 of these coins, it'll be 0.001 or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Change the value, but it's always going to fluctuate, and likely it'll just keep going up in value.
Yeah, that's so cool, man.
Which is another benefit of NFTs because it does have that value of the blockchain behind it.
Right. I guess I haven't even thought about that. But if an NFT sits for too long for sale, does it make it more valuable or less valuable?
Well, it depends on what the coin's worth because really you're just buying cryptocurrency.
Right.
Because it's always based. You're always selling it based on that crypto.
Right.
And
but I guess what I'm asking you is just say ETH skyrockets to 10K. Would you drop the price of this according to what you originally sold it for based when ETH was like
if you wanted to
2K, or would you just let it if somebody's paid this much for it, let's
the market dictates that, right?
Right.
If people are buying it, you wouldn't change it.
Right.
If nobody's buying it, you would have to drop the price.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Curious how that works. See, that alone, just the whole DeFi ecosystem makes me want to buy more Ethereum. Knowing that this is coming,
right? Yeah.
I didn't load the bags up enough when I first got Ethereum's doubled since I first got in, and I was like, man, of course, everything hindsight.
Like I said earlier, though, I think people paying exorbitant amounts of money for NFTs is sort of a novelty thing because it's new. But I think
that part's got to go. It's got to be based more on function, valuation based on function, based on solving these problems. Like this is where I get a little like we're in that tulip craze part.
Yep.
And everybody's like, well, that completely went away. Well, they had a life cycle, and I think if you look at things like why is it valued the way it is, like right now, like if AMC goes to $100,000 a share,
Right.
if I'm not mistaken, it's the most valuable company in the world.
Right. It would be. I did see that it would be 22 times the size of Apple if that happens.
So it doesn't make sense. However, what we're talking about is not about what makes sense. What we're talking about is hype. There's actually a lot of things taking place because of all the shorts they have to buy to cover their shorts, and then it forces other people that have shorted the position to buy. There's a whole lot of things, and there's also you don't have 100% of the stock available. Right, so we have a fraction of stock available, and those stocks, how many are available for sale is even smaller.
Right.
And so what happens is you get this thing where if every share sold for that, it would be 22 times more valuable than Apple. But the reality is every share would never sell. Only a fraction of the shares would sell.
Right.
Yeah.
And as people sold, the price would come down.
Right.
So it's temporary. It's a hype. It's an inflation. And it could happen, right? I don't need it. I'll sell well before it ever gets there.
Yeah.
So at least fractions of it as it's
I think
going.
one positive thing is that there probably won't be a lot of new theater companies.
Right. I saw that like IMAX and a bunch of those other theater chains, their stock's dropping because of AMC right now.
Yeah.
Right. It's just kind of funny.
Well, I'll tell you, I think what's going to happen too is I think because of technology, because of the way people are communicating, because of what's taken place with AMC and with GameStop and with some other companies, I think these companies that short, they make their living bankrupting other companies.
Yeah.
I think their days are numbered.
I do
talking
too.
about like the Melvin Capital.
Yeah,
of the
Melvin
world.
Capital's one. Yeah, like the Melvin. I mean, like those types of companies, I think their days are numbered because if you think about it, it's really easy at this point. If you see heavy positions shorting stock, and there's no reason, there's no logical reason. They've decided that they're gonna push the stock down artificially. Then if you can get enough force in the opposite direction, right?
What's a good example of knowledge is power?
Yeah.
Information is power.
Right.
So I'm wondering their days are numbered. They're going to be a lot more careful about what
Well,
they
they
do.
used to have exclusive access.
Yeah.
And they don't have that anymore. Now everybody has access.
Yeah.
They're trying to block people, but
Right.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, you have an AMC stock. You know, it's probably going to be really volatile, but it's going to probably keep going up for a while.
I'm going to hold it for a little while.
Why wouldn't you just not ever sell and only set your stop limit to like 15 or 20% and just let it go?
AMC will probably go away.
What do you mean go away?
Eventually.
Like just go
I
out of
think somebody will
business?
eventually buy their so AMC is probably worth more based on some of the contracts they have negotiated with the film industry.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Like Blockbuster had a value, right? That was more than just the brick and mortar location.
And it was gone overnight.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. So like in my position with the amount I have, I don't even have a stop limit in place at all because I don't care. If it goes to zero, that's fine.
Right.
It's a risk I'm taking, right? But in theory, if I was worried about it, I would set my losses. So here's really what you're talking about. You can say, you know what, I'm willing to lose this much, and that's where you set your stop limit, right? Your stop loss, right? You're going to set that.
Sell half of it or something.
Day one. So now I know what I'm risking, and then some people just leave it open, and your return is
wherever. Sky's the limit, right?
But if they're saying, hey, it's going to be $100,000, I would still settle it. I think you should take profit as you go. Right.
That's the hardest part is. And for me personally, it's easier to tell people to take profit, but I have a hard time myself taking profit when it's a company I believe in and I'm long-term HODL mindset. But you can get burned really easy by not pulling your principal back out.
Well, I mean, if let's say that you can take and remove 10% of your position and by doing so remove 100% of your risk because you recovered 100% of your investment.
Right.
There's no loss in doing that, right? Like, hey, you know what? Overall, now I'm on house money.
Right.
Like that's the way I look at it.
Right.
Like, remember the first rule is Warren's rule.
Don't lose money.
Don't lose money.
Yeah.
So I've accomplished I've not lost money. And that's kind of the way this is my in my early 20s and my mid 20s, obviously I went from a fictitious net worth, a $12 million swing, negative $2 million, had to build back to zero, but I was all bull, all aggressive, hey, I'm gonna ride it to the end. If I lose everything, I'll start over tomorrow, and I ate my words, right? And now I go.
No, you lived up to your words.
I did. I rebuilt it. I don't want to do it again.
No, not now.
Yeah, but now the number one rule is how do I make sure I cover my initial investment?
Right.
And we do that religiously.
Yeah.
And
you take crypto profits too? You try to make sure you pull.
Yeah.
Pull
at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not in a rush.
Yeah.
But I have that same mentality.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is, let's say that it was just skyrocketing and I see it. I'll go ahead and pull my 10,000 out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
that doesn't remove my entire position, right? At that point. But if I can sell 5 or 10% of my position and pull 100% of my investment, I can go ahead and do it, and then I can let the rest ride to 70, 80, 90,000 if that's what it was going to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is that $1,000 a share, I kill it.
Yeah, you would kill it. Yeah.
So
before we move on past the AMC thing and the evaluation, I'm pretty sure Dogecoin a few weeks ago was worth more than Ford Motor Company.
Yeah. I saw that.
Well,
that's crazy.
And I want to come back to this too. I got one more point based on what you're saying too. So I'm checking my Doge right now. Doge is at 40 cents a coin right now, and earlier I think last week it was at 26 or 29 cents.
Yeah.
I rebought it.
You did.
I bought the dip. Everybody's all into hips. I like the dips, baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, I bought it. I think 26 or 29 cents, and it's at 40 right now. But
it jumped way up. Yeah.
But I'll tell you, here's the other thing that for anybody out there listening, not giving, definitely can do your own research, right?
Right. Yeah.
However, here's the other thing. Let's say that you have zero net worth, right? Like you have nothing, but you have $2 million in Doge, and you live with your parents, and you have debt, and you don't own any assets, right? And you got credit card debt and student loan debt, and you got maybe you've got car debt. It doesn't make any sense to me to leave all $2 million in Doge. Like, if selling changes your life forever, right? Maybe you don't have to sell the whole position, but riding it to zero and still living at your mom's house, right, with all that debt makes absolutely no sense.
Right. So you probably know the Dogecoin millionaire guy. Is that who you're referring to?
Yeah, like him. He's a prime example of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you need to pull out at minimum every so often. Take some of your profit and better your life.
Put it
right.
somewhere else. Yeah.
And maybe this is the principle you were talking about earlier. Like, you want to enjoy some of it as you go. Maybe that's that beach house.
Yeah.
Right. That you can also turn into an investment vehicle. Maybe that's the Tesla. Maybe it's some of these things. But you need to take. Every so often, you have to take your piece.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think a lot of people that don't have anything, and then they all of a sudden do, forget. They have the euphoria of thinking that things don't crash.
Right.
And then they have the woe is me mentality when it does.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this: as far as taking profits, would you? Okay, Bitcoin, right?
And why do you take profit? By the way, you take profit most of the time. And just really what you're doing is just reallocating the money.
Right.
But go ahead.
I guess I was going to ask you, so say Bitcoin hit 100 grand this year.
Yeah.
I would still be hard to take profit knowing where the long-term trajectory is, where we think it's going.
Yeah, it depends on I guess it depends on your position. So this comes back to that financial thing. Like, do you need the money?
Right.
Like, do you have debt? Do you have other problems in your life to solve? And also, what was your cost basis on the 100 grand?
Right.
What did you purchase the coins at?
Yes, that's fair.
What if you bought thousands of coins and 2010,
right,
and your cost basis is a few $100s,
right,
wouldn't you pull out your few $100?
That's a different story. Yes, I guess what I'm saying is like, say you have under a Bitcoin, and
also, do you own other cryptocurrencies, or is it all in one?
Right.
Because if you'd have bet on Kmart like you're betting on Bitcoin, you'd have lost a lot of money.
Right.
Why not take some of that and bet on Walmart too?
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
So why not take some of your profits when something skyrockets out of one thing? You don't have to remove your entire position and hedge your bet with another, maybe a competitor.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to bet that Elon's going to beat Elon and
Jeff Bezos.
Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pick one side or the other. I'm going to bet on both of them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a good strategy.
Right. But I agree with you. It's hard. But see,
Right.
the problem is that you've got, and we all do, we think we know what's going to happen and we don't.
Right.
So it's about hedging the bet.
True.
Hedging the
True.
investment, right?
And also you have to, things like the AMC thing, it goes back to like the Kmart, you have to look at the business and see, where does this business, what does it look like in the future?
Right.
Where can it go?
Yeah.
If AMC is going to start heavily investing in AR and VR technology, okay, that's a positive
Exactly.
thing.
They're going to change.
But
and they've restructured some of their debt because of their stock valuation. Because of what's happened.
Yeah.
They've sold shares at a huge multiple that they wouldn't have gotten just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Right.
And now, they got bailed out in January for I don't know, $900 some million. I mean, like, not bailed out, but they got funds to refinance their debt.
Yeah.
Now they're able to sell because of the stock valuation. They can sell shares and they can wipe the debt out. This is like a breath of life for them.
Yeah.
So what they do with it's going to be interesting.
Right.
Nobody's going to know, right?
Like, they're going to stay with brick and mortar theaters. That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
I think they're going under if they ride that. They're going to be like Blockbuster,
Right.
and to some extent Redbox. I mean, they're going to ride it into the ground, right? It'll put off money until it doesn't.
Do you have any? Do you have a headset, VR headset, or anything?
I don't. I'm curious, but I don't have any right now. No.
So like the Oculus Quest 2, it's a all-in-one VR headset. If you watch Amazon movies on that, you're in a theater.
Yeah.
And it's very realistic. It's basically the same as being in a theater. So you can imagine where that technology is going to be. Apple's working on a VR headset that's supposed to have 8K in each eye.
Wow.
So, I mean, I don't think you would have as good of an experience in a theater as you would in that headset.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's kind of sucky, but I get it. Movie theaters is a sacred place for filmmakers too, and that's something that's probably just not going to always be around.
Well, eventually, when we have something like Neuralink, it'll be completely indiscernible from the real thing, and you'll be there with your friends or with anybody else. It could be you could be in another country, and we could be in the same theater together and have this real experience. That's, is it real or not? But it doesn't matter. It seems it's indiscernible from reality.
Yeah. So if you were to go back and look at any, let's look at Sears. I think it was called Sears
and Roebuck. Yeah.
Roebuck, yeah.
Or Sears, Roebuck and Company or something.
Yeah, in the 90s. I believe it was in the 90s. And again, I don't follow this religiously. This is just me dabbling-ish. I believe it was the late 90s that Sears was the largest company in the United States, right? It was the most valuable company, rather, in the United States. And if it wasn't, it was definitely one of the top ones. I believe it was the most valuable. And Allstate, like Allstate Insurance, came from the Allstate tire that was sold underneath the escalator of Sears. That's where that entire insurance company came from, was from people selling the Allstate tire in Sears Roebuck stores. I don't know if people know that or not, but that entire insurance industry came from that. And obviously you see where Sears is and where they've been, right? So you have a giant in the United States that basically went out of business. And I think this is the problem, is that we don't know for sure what's going to happen to AMC. We don't know for sure what's going to happen to these other companies because we don't know how they're going to position. Right now, they're in a unique spot where they can take this renewed interest in them, and they can position that, like he's saying, and they can go down a different way. And the AMC of the future may not be like today. A good example of this is maybe a bad example, but Ferrari owns theme parks. Like, why would they own theme parks, right? Like, but you start looking at why do companies acquire other companies, and I believe it's a hedge against the risk of their industry.
Well, look at companies like GE. They own all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so like I can believe passionately in crypto and Bitcoin, but if GE hedges against themselves by acquiring other assets, hopefully AMC does the same thing. But if they don't, their company could go under. So it's like I believe that Bitcoin, but Bitcoin can't really diversify. It is what it is. So you have to do it by using the altcoins or literally alternative coins to Bitcoin.
Right.
So I don't know. That's like the stuff I get caught in these loops. Like,
I mean, don't you think the leaders in renewable energies will be the oil companies? Likely.
Yeah, eventually they're going to have to be.
I mean,
that's a good question.
If they don't, they're going to lose their
yeah, you're going to have
stakes.
to. It's going to be interesting, but like so, there are different schools of thought. They say, oh, don't put more than 5% of your position in any one company, or more than 20% in any one in any one asset class. But I'm thinking like, I want to be putting money in technology. I want to be putting money in forward-thinking people and companies.
Yeah.
And I don't want to bet on one. Like for me, I see two titans going at it. I'm going to bet on both of them.
Yeah, that's what I've done too with a lot of my stuff.
Yeah.
Do you guys get in the marijuana industry at all?
100%.
Okay, yeah. I probably have a lot in common on that one too.
Yeah, we actually I can't talk about it yet, but I mean we've been trying to secure through clients and through other things licenses in other states, and
nice.
We've consulted for since 2012 for the marijuana industry in Colorado, and
that's great.
So I mean we've got an end. We've got clients in sports betting, and I mean I'm literally, man, like if you wanted to talk plumbing,
yeah,
I'll do that too. Like we're open to anything.
Yeah. That's funny because I sports betting. That's another one I got into recently. Sports betting, cannabis, all this, the crypto. This has all been like the exciting stuff for me to learn way more about during COVID than I knew beforehand. So
and real quick, because I know we're getting late into this, but I'll tell you, what you have to figure out is where you want to be.
Yeah.
So the return for a stock investor, you got to think as an investor in the stock market, you're completely passive, right? You really, unless you're getting Class A shares and you're coming in with billions, you're not dictating anything that's happening at the company level, right, on the ground floor. So that's a passive investor. If that's what you're doing, you're just along for the ride, and you need to be paying attention to all these things we talked about. If you're on the ground floor, let's say like you have a sports betting license, the first one in Colorado out of 33 companies before you're all casinos, and you're the first non-casino to have one, you have a different approach. But also, you're going to get the potential for a much larger return, right? In this specific scenario, there are no stock investors, but imagine that there were. That return is diluted. It's got to be because of operations costs, because of CEOs, because of salaries, because of et cetera, right? But, so you just got to figure out where you're at in that path. Like, do you get into an industry and you try to be the one out on the ground floor, or do you just realize that you think that this is something that a trend or a direction that the world is heading, and you just invest in it in a little bit more of a passive way through cryptocurrencies or through the stock market? So, like, you have so much opportunity today. As Neil's saying, it's just so readily available from my phone.
Yeah.
Like 10 years ago when I was buying stock, it was archaic. Yeah. I can swipe up. Like, complete the transaction is just swipe up.
Yep.
Right? You don't even have to. I'm starting to mess my verbiage up. A long, long time ago, I had my Series 663, Series 7. Like, I can't even remember half the proper technology because I just say, just swipe up. Like,
right.
I'm not saying you complete your order. I'm just like, no, you just swipe up and it's done, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Easy to get a fill order now, huh?
Yeah, man, it's easy. But, it's like, so that's the things. Like, I just try to, many times we like to be the ones doing it.
Yeah.
But I'm also aware that I can't do everything. So then and it's also hedging my bet. I'm also investing in other people's efforts.
That's good. That's a smart way to do it, man.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm enjoying this one.
Yeah,
I did not think this.
Fun, yeah.
I didn't
this
think
whole
so
thing.
either.
I didn't think this is where it was going.
I didn't either. I love that we can talk about all this stuff. Yeah. That's the great thing about your podcast. It's open to all this stuff, right?
Yeah,
Man.
wherever it goes.
Sharing ideas.
Yeah, that's great.
Yep. Extracting and sharing ideas.
Yeah. Well,
We're all going to make some money after this one.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yeah, you done motivated me. I'm going to go do another couple positions.
You going to bet the farm on Doge or what?
If it drops back down under 30 cents, I'll probably move like $100,000 over to it again. But yeah,
that's great. So back in February, the first pump, I was like, man, I just want to. This is probably gonna be a big thing because everybody knows about it, even though it's pointless, right?
That's the thing for me. Like it has no purpose.
But it's all pointless.
It's all pointless. But I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna spend $100. I bought in. It was 0.69 cents. $100.
Nice.
1,500 shares for $100, and I'm just like, I'm up 600%. So I'm just like, okay, just gonna sit there and watch it from the sidelines. I'm not gonna buy anymore, I don't think, but I'm not gonna sell it just because it'll probably just keep going up over time.
I think it went to I can't remember 69 or 70 cents. I sold like 9,000 coins at 69 cents or something like that, like a decent amount. And then I got busy, which happens.
Yep.
And see, this is awesome. This is why I like it. Sometimes I just forget about things, and then I look at it one day and it was like and everybody's panicking. Obviously, I'm not that way, and I'm hearing it, and I just happened to look at it, and it was like 44 cents.
Yeah.
And I retook my entire position, but obviously at this point, because I'm able to acquire more coins, right? Yep. I resold at like 54 cents. I did it a few times. I don't particularly like doing. I'm not what you would call like a day trade or anything like that. I don't like. It just requires too much work.
Right.
I'm definitely more of the buy and hold. I want that long term, but it's been so volatile. It's been too tempting.
Yeah,
I think.
Right.
Yeah.
But I sold out again at like, I don't know, maybe it was like 54, 59 cents, somewhere in there, and then I just got lucky, dumb luck that it dropped down to like in the 30s, and then I set some things that it would automatically buy at, say, I think 29.2, basically 0.299.
Yep.
And they filled.
Nice.
And I hit them. And I hit it. And then if it drops back down there again, I'll do it again.
You set your buy orders on Binance. Is that how you do that?
Well, on these I've been doing through Robinhood. This last 3 weeks.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep. Because Binance has still got me slightly.
That's what you were saying. Yeah, locked out.
Yeah, because I got that one fixed, but I still have that little. Here's the other thing I'm doing. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass, but I don't have all my things in one place.
Oh yeah, that's several wallets.
So I've got
all over
several.
the place.
So because it makes me a little nervous,
Me
and then
too.
sometimes I can't use Robinhood, but I can use another.
Right.
Like I use Ally it's nowhere near as user friendly, but I've got other professional trade accounts and things like that I can use as well. So I try to keep things kind of separated like that as well.
So you keep it separated, but it's still all on exchanges, not cold storage for now.
Right. I don't have any cold storage currently.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yep. And
are you against it, or you just don't see the need for it right now? You like having the exchanges?
I just haven't had time to deal with it to do it.
Yeah.
But let's use the.
It's risky too, though.
Yeah.
You could lose it.
Right.
Let's look at the.
I know some people have lost a lot of Bitcoin.
Well, it's only as safe as your seed phrase. Your seed phrase is your life, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So but look at what's happened, like with my stuff that's locked up in Coinbase right now. Still, like if it was in cold storage, I could just
grab it. Yep.
Yeah. Do I need to? But the other side of this is, I think those problems will eventually be fixed.
Hope
right?
so.
I'll have this resolved.
Sure.
Hope so.
But I probably should take, because I'm all about hedging my bets, so
Right.
I probably should take a certain percentage of it and leave it in cold storage
Right.
too.
That's
not all of it, but some of it.
Yeah. I think everything that I owned up until like a month ago is on cold storage. Everything I buy now I'm leaving it on exchanges just for some liquidity in case I need to,
Yeah. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just but if you're taking that long term approach, again, look at Warren. Warren never pulled money out of the stock market ever.
Yep.
I mean, like that dude.
Apple and Coca-Cola, he's still got those original shares.
But why would you pull it out?
Well, those types of assets are a lot more predictable too, though.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Now I think things like Cardano make sense to leave it because you can see what it's doing.
If you have something that's less predictable, as it has those periods of high rise, take some of the profit, and really it's not take the profit, just reposition some of that to a different coin, or just to hedge the bet, right? Like he's saying, because Coke was very predictable, for the longest period of time, right? So if you felt like a coin like Doge is highly volatile and really you don't think it serves a long-term purpose, then it doesn't have a long-term function that we're going to utilize, then I think it's okay to take some of that money and maybe put it into a Cardano or a Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever.
Yep.
Whatever do you want.
I feel like cryptos will be part of what offsets the job losses in the future.
You think so?
I think so. Yeah.
How so? Just curious what.
Well,
how that would work.
There's going to have to be some way to subsidize people's incomes.
Well, you and I, we can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Right now, but we actually have I think we stumbled across something that we're going to try. So involving cryptocurrency, but I think it can help. We talked about it could help with people that are homeless, people that have no. Yeah, it's really interesting. We can't really. Who knows? It could be a long shot.
There's a lot of possibilities with cryptocurrency.
I agree.
In the future.
Yeah, you guys have to fill me in off the record sometime. I want in on that. That sounds like a cool thing.
It'd be interesting to see. It'd take a while, but I think there's a lot of things that starts
there. Yeah, and if it's not us, someone will do it. It'll happen. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah,
hopefully us.
Yeah, we'll see. Awesome. This was fun.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Yeah.
So, what advice do you have for up and coming filmmakers, entrepreneurs, creative entrepreneurs?
I guess just the basic stuff, man. Just be good to people. You want to be somebody that people want to work with.
Agreed.
Don't burn your bridges. Just communication. Communication's big. You want to be somebody that people can get a hold of you, answer your text messages, answer your emails. I guess just work hard. Don't be scared to keep working.
Right.
That's really it. Just find what you like, whether it's in the film business or some other creative industry, and just meet as many people as you can. Try to learn from others.
Yeah. Relationships.
Yeah, relationships. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Everything is relationships in our industry.
And always be positive. Don't talk bad about your competition, stuff like that. Yeah.
It's really easy to fall into the negativity.
Worry about
side.
you.
Exactly. Yeah. That's it though.
Cool.
Yeah,
Man.
I appreciate you guys having me on. This has been awesome.
Dude, it's been great having you on, and
Awesome.
We appreciate it. How can people follow you on social media or your websites?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. It's at Will_Stroud, and my production company is at Press Record Media. And for the BMX stuff, if you want to follow what we're doing, it's at Cinema BMX.
Awesome. Well, dude, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, been a pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was
And
awesome.
If you guys enjoyed the episode, be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next week.
Later,
Bye,
guys.